All right, let's get it drive time. Tuesday afternoon. We are looking at about 12 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. Man, have we had a stretch of weather. It's about 70 degrees today, 68, 70 degrees. It is clear and sunny here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. Our start of November has been downright balmy. We're going to hit 70 degrees again tomorrow. And the forecast this weekend looks excellent. Too bad we don't have any Utah football here in Salt Lake or BYU football in Provo. But a big game coming up for Brigham Young. They're in Lubbock taking on Texas Tech. Talk some college football on the show today, as tonight is the first iteration of the CFP rankings. They will be released later on tonight, and moving forward, they really are the only rankings that matter. And we're going to learn about what this 12-person committee believes concerning teams that play their football in the Big 12 Conference. We'll go over a couple of the projections that have been released. Heather Dinich from ESPN has BYU at 7, Texas Tech at 9. Where will the University of Utah land? It is a new era in the CFP, even though it continues to be a 12-team format. The first CFP rankings revealed, 12-member committee, 30 teams will be ranked, and it is strictly their criteria. Now, that leads to a lot of ambiguity, but when you kind of listen to what the chairman has to say, they're looking at a number of different things, not just wins and losses, which sounds a little weird, not just head-to-head, which sounds a little weird. They're going to look at strength of record. They're going to look at, quote, good losses. They're going to look at advanced metrics. They're going to look at current form. They're going to look at health. And ultimately, we're probably going to land on the top 4 seeds being the teams that win the SEC and the Big Ten and the teams that lose in the conference championship games in those respective conferences. Now, a lot of football left to be played, so we're not going to lose our minds about tonight. But I am curious to see where Utah lands, because when it comes to simply the AP and the coaches poll, which are, for the most part, unserious exercises, Utah's not a very highly ranked team. But as we continue to discuss on the show, every single week we kind of dig into some of the advanced stuff. And the advanced metrics, the FPI, the S&P Plus, strength of record. And if you take current form and health into play with Devin Dampier back under center, Utah rises 7 spots in the AP to 17. They're at 19 in the coaches poll. BYU is number 8 in both. Texas Tech is number 9 in both. I wouldn't be stunned if Utah creeps up to about 13 or 14 in tonight's CFP rankings. I don't think they can get any higher than that because, yes, I do believe head-to-head matters. I do believe beating the team across from you matters. And in the 2 situations where Utah really has been tested, they have not been able to answer the bell. And I'm sure in that CFP room, they're going to ask, okay, what is we like Utah. We like their current form. When they win, they absolutely curve stomp the opponent. But what is Utah's best win? Is it Cincinnati? Cincinnati dropping down to 25 in both the coaches and the AP poll. And when it comes to the football power index and the S&P Plus, not very highly thought of. So I think one of the things that will really plague Utah as of now is there's no signature win, whereas BYU can say we have a signature win, and that is the aforementioned Utes in Provo. Now, BYU has an opportunity to really shut everybody up coming up Saturday night in Lubbock, where they are a 10 or a 9.5-point underdog against Texas Tech. More pressure on Tech, in my opinion, in this game than Brigham Young. I'll tell you why coming up in a little bit. But we got a lot of college football to get to on the show today. It is trade day in the NFL, and the Jets have waved the white flag. The Jets have simply given up Sauce Gardner as a Colt, Quinnen Williams as a Cowboy. They get 3 first-round picks. I mean, the Jets suck anyway, so it's clear they're just going to try to lose out, draft one of the quarterbacks at the top of the draft and try to reset. 2 really talented defensive players sent elsewhere. Jacoby Myers is headed to Jacksonville. They've got a lot of injuries on the outside. So we'll get to all the news in the NFL with the trade deadline. BYU does expect LJ Martin back against Texas Tech. Good time for a bye last week for Brigham Young. LJ is one of the best backs in the Big 12. And, of course, takes a little pressure off of Bear Bachmeier. Sione Moa, the backup running back, continues to nurse injuries. So some good news on the injury front if you're a BYU fan. And if you're a BYU fan, more good news. Did you watch BYU Villanova last night, the college basketball debut of the number one recruit in the country, future Jazzman, question mark, A.J. DeBonsa in Las Vegas, where our guy Richard Smith was on the ground. Britton Johnson in attendance as well. Chris Burgess, BYU assistant coach, is one of Britton's best friends. And it got a little dicey there for a minute. BYU needs some help on the defensive glass, but AJ was pretty much exactly what we thought he would be. Didn't shoot it well from the free throw line, but 21 points, 6 boards, 3 assists. Former Ute Kaba Keita was a monster if you watch that game. BYU with Rob Wright, AJ DeBonsa, Richie Saunders, and Kaba. That's a 1-4 unit that is really good. They went with the Kennard Davis Jr. kid. He actually led them in minutes, but they're deep. They go 8 or 9 deep. And so BYU gets a win out of the gates on Turner Sports, by the way, Hall of Fame Classic in Las Vegas. Game 1 of the Alex Jensen era was a little up and down. San Jose State did take a lead in the second half, but Seydou Traore led the way with 23 points, 18 in the second half. It's going to be work in progress. It's going to take some time in the Big 12 Conference, one of the best conferences, if not the best conference in America. But just early returns, a more athletic team, faster team, and it's going to take some time to kind of get things settled in. Don McHenry had 16. Terrence Brown, their starting point guard, 12 points, 8 assists. He looked pretty good, but went 0 of 4 from 3. Traore, 5 of 8 from 3. They went 10 of 25 as a team. Really, the only player that we're familiar with is Keanu Dawes, who had 12 points, 9 boards last night for the Utes as they win their first game of the college basketball season. Utah Jazz broke a 3-game losing streak in Boston with a good close, a suspicious no call as Jaylen Brown was tripped, and Jaylen had a lot to say about that, but the Jazz got the win, breaking a 3-game losing streak. They're going to be in Detroit coming up tomorrow. Keontae George played really well. Maybe the offseason stuff with him is real. He looked good again last night. So we'll do some basketball in the show today, but a lot of college football. Your pro football weekend came to a close last night as the Arizona Cardinals, led by Jacoby Brissett, absolutely smoked the Dallas Cowboys in a really uninspiring game. I mean, it was in Dallas. Arizona had lost 5 straight. Kyler Murray continues to sit. Jacoby looked pretty good. Dak put up some stats late, as he is wont to do, and then threw a pick, and that thing kind of ended. So Week 10, that's right, Week 10 of the NFL gets going, coming up on Thursday with an old-school rivalry. 2 teams are headed in different directions. The pathetic Las Vegas Raiders taking on the red-hot Denver Broncos. Denver's won 5 straight games. That'll be in Denver, Colorado. That is your Thursday night football tilt. Utah football on a bye before the stretch run of the season. Good time for a bye for the Utes. So, again, tonight, CFP style, we'll see exactly how it goes down when it is released. Our first guest today will be Gavin Peterson. He coaches the Utah women's basketball team. They won their first game of the season. Craig Bolerjack stops by, the voice of the Utah Jazz. Gordon Monson, Salt Lake Tribune, live in studio. We'll get Gordon's take on the current state of college football right now with Utah and BYU. Joe Cravens joins us too. So heavy college basketball guest list on the show today, and then we'll go from there. Let's see. Gavin Peterson, Craig Bolerjack, Gordon Monson, Joe Cravens, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners. That guy, Porter Larson, bummed about a Monday Night Football loss, but you stole our best defensive lineman. So maybe a little bit of good, bad news today.
Yeah, the Quinnen Williams addition is awesome. Any defensive player like that is good to add to the roster, but even that is something you have to look at through a Cowboys lens where his contract, Spence, if you look at his Quinnen Williams contract, the big portion of it starts in the next 2 years, right? So he was actually playing on a pretty team-friendly contract with the Jets. That will not be the case in Dallas. He's about to be a huge cap hit against them. And then, lovely, free agency after 2026 and 2027. So looking forward to the Cowboys negotiating with another star defensive player in the next couple of off seasons. That should be fun. And then, yes, last night, a perfect encapsulation of everything that I talk about with the Dallas Cowboys each and every week. Clock management, Dak, putting up the numbers and then not really doing it when the crunch time is there. It was just kind of a perfect summary of what the Cowboys are right now and losing to a roster that has no business beating them. So, yeah. moving on to Tuesday.
Yeah, fair enough. Also, Rashid Shaheed is on the move. He is going to Seattle. That's a good move. The Saints, like the Jets, have punted on the season to try to capitalize on this exciting draft class of quarterbacks coming up next year. All right, Coach Pete, Gavin Peterson will be our first guest on a Tuesday. But before we get to Gavin, on a Tuesday afternoon, courtesy of our good friends and your good friends at Prize Picks, it's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
You guys already know that Prize Picks is the best spot to win cash on football, whether it is the Broncos or the Raiders or, heaven forbid, the Jets. Best place to turn your knowledge into cash when it comes to football. But basketball is back, pro basketball is back, and Prize Picks is the best way to win cash on hoops. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections, and you can win up to 2,000 times your cash. Prize Picks now offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. If you want to pick more on Steph Curry's points, 3-pointers, and assists, now you can pick all of them in the same lineup, only on Prize Picks. You can follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, you can hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. Step number 1, download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. All right. We talk every week about the AP rankings. We talk every week about the coaches poll. We talk every week about advanced metrics, FPI, S&P Plus, power rankings, strength of schedule. Well, tonight is really the only thing that matters as it pertains to the rankings moving forward. The college football playoff, technically top 30, will be released tonight right after we say goodnight at 6 o'clock. It's going to happen at 8 o'clock Eastern. Of course, our show ends at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. So the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is thought to believe to be using a new type of criteria this year to rank the teams. 12 members, 30 teams. It's still a 12-team format. The top 4 seeds get buys. And if I had to guess, the top 4 seeds will be the winner of the Big 12, the winner of the SEC, and then the 2 teams that lose in those respective conference championship games. I feel like we can put that in chalk for a number of different reasons. And yes, part of it is probably because the best teams, more often than not, do exist in those leagues. I know Big 12 podcasters and fanboys disagree with that, but it is what it is. And yes, we will acknowledge that sometimes brands are given benefits of the doubt, like Notre Dame continues to get the benefit of the doubt this year, despite their 2 losses. One loss that doesn't look really good at all to Miami that just got by SMU, who was beat by Baylor. And the Oklahomas of the world, the Texases of the world, even though they got a couple times, are probably going to be given the benefit of the doubt as well. But what will the CFP tell us tonight about how they view the Big 12? What will the CFP tell us tonight about how they view Brigham Young, Texas Tech, and Utah? Specifically those 3 teams. Now, first 4 teams get a bye. Seeds 5 through 8 get home games. And then, of course, 5 through 12 will play each other starting on December the 19th. And then it will just go as the bracket manifests. And by the way, the seedings this year, the rankings this year, are simply up to the criteria of these 12 people on the committee. So we have to try to learn what they value. And they've announced a new set of criteria when it comes to what they're going to tell us tonight. And it should be it's not just wins and losses, okay? What they're trying to do, according to their own information and their own messaging, is figure out who the top 30 teams are in college football today, right now. And that's not just wins and losses. It's strength of record. It's strength of schedule. It's best wins. It's current health. If your quarterback's out for the year, even if you're, 7-1 or 8-1 or whatever, they're going to look at that. If you started out really, really hot and have come back down to earth over the past couple of weeks, they're going to look at that. They're going to look at advanced metrics. They're going to look at things that they haven't looked at in years past. Now, I am old school, so I do believe that if you win football games, regardless of what your strength of record or strength of schedule says, you should be given the benefit of the doubt, which leads me to Brigham Young, who finds themselves right now undefeated and atop the college football landscape in the Big 12. They're 5-0, they're 8-0 overall, and they do have a signature win. That signature win is the Utes in Provo. Beyond that, what's their best win? I don't know. And if you're the committee, you have to ask, okay, how much does a win in Ames, Iowa count this year against an Iowa State team who's 2-4 in conference and 5-4 overall, and you were down 24-10 in that game? They do get L.J. Martin back. At least that's the reports that he's going to play coming up. That is a 10 a.m. Mountain Time kick in Lubbock against Texas Tech. That is a massive football game. BYU has a chance once and for all to shut everybody up if they go down there as a 9.5-point underdog and get it done. Now, even if let's say BYU loses 34-33, that's still not going to be a killer for them, because what the committee will probably tell us tonight is both Tech and BYU are top 10 teams. At least that's my guess. Now, again, every single year, this committee feeds us information, and we try to digest it and predict exactly what their model is going to look like. And more often than not, they surprise us, and then they try to explain it, and it sounds like a congressman filibustering about political violence, and you just get exhausted and you turn the TV off. So I don't know what it's going to look like tonight. But if BYU goes to Lubbock and wins, they shut everybody up. But I think if BYU goes to Lubbock and even loses by a couple of points, maybe even a field goal, they still shut everybody up. BYU has a signature win. It's Utah. Texas Tech has the best win of anyone in the conference, in my opinion, and that's giving it to Utah in the fourth quarter here in Salt Lake City. Both these two teams have a signature win, and both of them are Utah. What is Texas Tech's best win beyond beating the Utes? Going to Manhattan and beating a K-State team this year who, like Iowa State, has fallen below expectations. K-State, 3-3 in conference. They're 4-5 overall. So for all the Big 12 shills, it was like, hey, that's a tricky play. No, it's not. Like, if you're a top 10 team, go to Manhattan and beat Kansas State. Same thing about Iowa State this year. Like, second best win for Tech is who? Maybe at Houston, but they just lost. Second best win for BYU is who? At Iowa State. That's not moving the needle this year. Stanford is horrible. They played really close games against teams that aren't very good in Colorado and Arizona, to name a few, right? So these are the exercises that the committee is going to go through. But again, with BYU sitting there at 8-0, 5-0 in conference, Texas Tech 8-1, 5-1 in conference. Tech's only lost to Arizona State when they did have Leavitt. He's out for the season. Those two teams I do think will land in the top 10. I think it's going to be close to where they're at in the AP. But if the advanced metrics are something they're leaning into, will that cost BYU a couple of slots? Is there a way we see BYU at 10 or 11, right? And what does that mean for Utah? Because you lost to the team that the advanced metrics don't necessarily like. And if you're Utah, do you have a signature win? You don't. Sorry, you don't. Is it Arizona State without Sam Leavitt? Like, they're going to take that into consideration. They're not just looking at the score and say, oh, yeah, Utah beat an Arizona State team at home 42-10 that was really good. They were without their starting quarterback. Now, the good news for Utah is their best win just happened, and they undressed a top 25 team with College Game Day in town, a top 25 team that did have their full complement of players. That's where the Utah dynamic gets interesting. The advanced metrics, like the Utes, if they're going to talk about current form, they're going to look at the Cincinnati win, but they're also going to look big picture and say the two opportunities you had to get a signature win against the two teams in your conference, you failed to do that. So according to ESPN's predictive metrics, they actually do have two Big 12 teams in, and those two teams are BYU and Texas Tech. They have Utah as the first team out. And here's what they have to say about the Utes. The Utes are in a tricky spot because their two losses are to the Big 12's two best teams, BYU and Texas Tech. Utah still has the third best chance to reach the Big 12 title game, but it will need some help to get there. Utah's best wins are against Arizona State and Cincinnati, but the Utes are going to have a hard time earning an at-large bid without beating at least one of the best teams in their league. We'll find out tonight, 6 o'clock Mountain Time. The first release of the initial iteration of the CFP rankings will come your way at 6 o'clock right after we say goodnight. We'll catch a break. Gavin Peterson joins us coming up, off and running on a Tuesday. Keep it here on ESPN 700. Craig Bolerjack will stop by today, the TV voice of the Utah Jazz. The Jazz broke their 3-game losing streak in Boston last night. Gordon Monson, Salt Lake Tribune, live in studio. We'll do college football, Gordon, today. Tonight is the first iteration of the CFP rankings. That'll come your way at 6 o'clock. Where will the Utes lie? What will they tell us about their opinion on the Big 12 Conference? Joe Cravens later on as well. So we'll get back to some college football in a moment. But the Utah women's basketball team opened up play with an 88-62 win over Sioux Falls. New look roster, but the same coach, Gavin Peterson, on a Tuesday. Coach, how you doing, sir?
Good, Spence. How are you doing?
I'm well. Appreciate the time. So congrats on the opening season win. This is a new look roster. What do we need to know about your team that looks a little bit different than it did a year ago?
Yeah, a lot of new faces. Our fans will have to get used to them, but I'm hoping that we're going to give them a lot to cheer about early and often. So other than the new faces, we got a lot of good freshmen, and their talent level is going to be relied upon heavily this season. We have, Maddie Wilkie, Lonnie White, Reese Ross. They give us that experience and the leadership that we need from the upperclassmen. But our young kids, led by Evelina Otto, Avery Jumstead, L.A. Sneed, those three are going to come in right away and going to be put to the test. And the sooner we can get them to play consistent basketball, I think we're going to be able to reach our full potential this season.
So the two players that really popped against Sioux Falls, Evelina and Avery, who you just pointed out. So Evelina, 15 points, 9 boards, 4 offensive rebounds, hit 5 of 7 shots. Tell our listeners about this new player. Let's start with Evelina. What do you like most about her?
Yeah, we just love her physical play and her basketball IQ. She's somebody that the pace of the game at our level in our program, she's getting used to, but she's just been so coachable. She's so strong, and that's going to come in very handy when we play some of the great bigs that are in our conference in the Big 12. So somebody that I think her best days are still ahead of her, but we're not going to wait. We're not patient in that regard. We're going to put her to the test right away, and she's been doing everything we've been asking her from day one. And she has a lot of international experience, having represented Latvia in the Under-20 World Championships and those type of events through FIBA basketball. So we're excited to have her in a Utah uniform.
You can tell Avery can shoot it a little bit. It's not just that she made 4 of 9. It's a good-looking jumper as well. So tell us about her. She had 14 points on 4 of 9 from 3.
Yeah, Avery is one of those pure shooters where every time she begins that shooting motion, you believe it's going in. I'm shocked when it doesn't go in. And she's a kid where we all have the utmost confidence in her. She's 4 for 9. Well, we want her to go 8 for 20. If she's 1 for 10, I want her to go maybe 2 for 20. Like every time she shoots the ball, we think it's going to go in. And, for those people who have grown accustomed to the style of play we play, any wide open 3, we're looking to take advantage of it because more often than not, we're going to make them.
Is Maddie the only senior on your roster?
No, so we have Lonnie White, who's
returned, Lonnie White. Okay.
To our program. We also have Maddie Wilkie, and those two are going to be relied upon heavily to give us that experience and leadership from their positions. They're going to be our go-to players, no doubt about it, as the season develops. But we also have Sam Crisp, who's has been coming off the bench for us, but she's filling that role. Last night she had 5 O boards, 2 defensive rebounds for a total of 7, and that's the type of energy and somebody who's fitting into a role and providing that spark off the bench. So she's somebody that she's going to have some good games for us.
So we had you on, Gavin, after the news came down that Coach Rob had left and you were taking over. And now it's been a minute. You've been the head coach now for more than a minute. We have a little bit of a data sample size. What are you trying to build now? How much of it is what you learned from Lynn? How much of it is you trying to implement your own style?
Yeah, I think learned a tremendous amount from Lynn Roberts, and I still stay in touch with her to this day. So always going to rely on somebody who I've been in the trenches with for 12 years. So I'm always going to rely on people like that. But putting my own, thumbprint on this, there's not a lot of differences people will see. We still want to play the same brand of basketball, same core principles. The foundation is set. The challenge that we have this year is we've reloaded our roster with great talent, and that's going to be the next wave, kind of like back in 2018 2021, 2022, when we had that big freshman class that entered as freshmen, we were able to get to the NCAA tournament as freshmen, and then they went for the next 3 years to make it 4 straight. Well, we're in that reloading phase where this group, they can start their legacy this season, and we've got to work towards continuing that legacy, continuing that string of NCAA tournaments. That's the standard that we've set. We have our own selves to blame for that. So we're going to welcome those expectations, and we're going to set the standard and call everybody up to that standard. And that's where we want to be at the end of the year. Being young, we're going to have some ups and downs, but I think we're going to put on exciting brand of Utah basketball this season because we are very talent heavy, and I'm excited to see what unfolds.
So if I asked you to characterize style of play when it comes to what you want your team to look like on both offense and defense, what would you say to that, Gavin?
Yeah, I think we're going to be fast-paced on the offensive end, and we're going to just be gritty, scrappy on the defensive end. With our depth this season, we're going to be able to turn up the volume on defense a little bit and play a little bit more 94 feet and force people to play at our tempo on offense. And I think, over the stage of 40 minutes, especially at home at elevation, things will work out in our favor. But, expect the same up-tempo, high-powered offense, and then maybe, stay tuned for some up-tempo defensive pressure as well.
We've been talking quite a bit about analytics over the past couple of weeks as, Coach Witt, after the BYU game, said he was leaning into what the numbers told him to do with some of the decision-making stuff. And, it's funny, Gavin, analytics kind of started out in Major League Baseball in like the 80s, started to permeate a little bit into basketball kind of mid to late 90s. And now, regardless of what sport at what level, a lot of coaches, a lot of administrators really lean into the numbers. And, to be reductive when it comes to basketball, and I always chuckle about this because part of me feels like Steph Curry ruined it for everybody, but, suddenly like everybody wants to shoot it. You want threes and layups and dunks, right? Like, you can expedite some of that by getting to the free throw line, and a lot of people believe the mid-range is dead. When it comes to watching your team play, it feels like you're hunting threes, right? How much of that is analytical? How much of that is just your personal philosophy? Kind of explain that approach to us, will you?
Yeah, I think it's a balance of both. I think preference in terms of we want great shots taken at all times. And the fact that we play so unselfishly, it's not that the mid-range jump shot is dead in our program. We were 1 for 2 yesterday. We only took 2 because a lot of times in that zone on the basketball court, our players will trigger rotations and the unselfish part kicks in where they pass up a good shot for a great shot in terms of an open three. So that's kind of the philosophy that we really lean into. We do have a lot of players that are capable of making mid-range jump shots, and they know that they have the green light to do so. They also have put in the time, whether it's film study or extra hours in the gym, where they actually also know when that is the right shot to take. So it's not that we don't practice them. We practice them daily. And the players who are good at them, they definitely know that they have the green light to take them. But like I said, I think it just goes back and habit kicks in. And a lot of times we just find that open shooter, hanging out at the three-point line, and we are so unselfish where we'll make that pass. So that's what I love about, how we play. Last night we scored 30 points from 3, 22 points from the free throw line, and we almost hit the 30-point mark from 2s. So that's probably, if you had asked me, that'd be a perfect basketball game from the offensive side of things, minus the 17 turnovers.
Yeah, and that I was going to lean there next. That's probably just a young team, right? Not like playing together very much. Yeah. When it comes to that number for game one, look, you don't want to turn the ball over, but I would imagine that's just you guys needing to get used to each other. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think, with practice time, a lot of lineups that we're seeing in game, sometimes that's the first time that lineup's been together for whatever reason. This time of year, you'll have your bumps and bruises, rolled ankles here and there. So we're trying to manage our load in practice. So a lot of times in games, especially in games like last night where we had the opportunity to play different lineups, try to spread out minutes as best we could. that's when a lot of times those mistakes happen. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's something that we're going to continue to work on. And we want to, anywhere between 10 to 12 turnovers, that's going to happen in basketball. If we can live around there, I'm going to like our offensive production at the end of the day.
Gianna did elect to transfer to UCLA, not to rub salt in the wound, but I just wanted to bring that up because I think a lot of our listeners probably assume that the transfer stuff is really adversely affecting maybe football, basketball, men's basketball, or whatever, but it's affecting everybody. Can you shed some light on that process, how it went down, and maybe conversations you had with her before her electing to take off?
Yeah. First and foremost, Gianna Neepkins graduated from the University of Utah with a degree. So we're really proud of her for doing that. Because of her injury and that redshirt year, it allowed her another year of basketball. And as much as we'd love it for her to be here in a Utah uniform, she felt that opportunity for her gave her a chance. And in her words, she wanted to go compete for a national championship and play in a Final Four. So if you look at her recruiting process through the portal, she only visited teams that were, in the Final Four. I think she visited UCLA, Texas, and South Carolina. So she was very dialed in terms of what she wanted to do and what she wanted to fulfill in her last year. And she was able to capitalize on it through NIL and rev share. And, good for her. We wish her nothing but the best. She's going to get that opportunity to do so at UCLA. And, here at Utah, it's, we're going in a different direction and, full steam ahead. And we got to reload with young talent. And out of this crew, and also with the class that we signed, that we're going to sign in 26, I think we're going to get that next player who's going to be that type of player and have that star power that our fans are going to grow and love to watch.
How has the new ability that institutions have to compensate their athletes affected you guys on the women's basketball side of things? I attended a symposium this week with Mark Harlan and Brian Santiago, and it was a round table where they discussed, and look, those guys certainly have a lot of work to do, and it's a new era where their workload of trying to have, having to tax day is different these days at universities, for students, things like that. And, I know it's still very much a work in progress, but July 1st of this year changed a lot of things for a lot of people. How did it change anything for you, Coach?
Yeah, it definitely changed the landscape of recruiting. What we want to do is we want to make sure that our players are getting taken care of, and our administration here, Mark Harlan, Charmel Green, Jason Grieco, they do a tremendous job of supporting us in the revenue sharing space. So we're competitive in the recruiting landscape. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure our players are choosing Utah for the right reasons. And, the revenue sharing is just the cherry on top of the sundae, really. And so we've been able to do that, get kids here to the University of Utah for the right reasons. They still buy into the core values, the foundation. And then we want them to, as they progress through the University of Utah in our women's basketball program, the more they invest in us, they're going to get rewarded as well as their commitment to us and our commitment to them. So that's how we'd like it to play out. And then come the spring, when the transfer portal opens, however that may play out, we'll be ready to look through the portal and fix the immediate needs that maybe the high school recruiting didn't fill for us. So, the transfer portal is not going anywhere. You got to learn to adapt and learn to utilize it. But at the end of the day, we still want to make sure we're bringing in the right kids to pour into the process. And we want to make sure that our player development are pouring into them. That leads to great things. And it's not just so, we need the result now. We're going to get our results, but we're going to do it our way. And development is still something that we do really good here in our women's basketball program.
As a coach, I'm quite sure you're going to answer my next question that you're focused on Utah State. And I understand it's a one game at a time approach, but when you look at the schedule and you look at the Hall of Fame Women's Showcase and Gino Auriemma and the UConn Huskies are on that schedule as the preseason number one team in the country, what does that say about, the type of atmosphere and challenge that's going to be? I mean, he is, and that program, I grew up back there. I grew up 40 minutes outside of Stores, and Yeah, obviously there are plenty of other programs that have advanced in the modern day, but for so long he was the standard. What sort of emotions go through you when you anticipate what that's going to look like coming up in a few weeks?
Yeah, I think even in just my coaching career, he has been the standard. Fortunate for me in my coaching journey as well, got to coach against Tara Vanderveer. I've been an assistant coach on a staff where we played UConn and Gino back at the University of Hawaii, back with Diana Taurasi. So it's kind of cool. I get to, take our program to a great venue in the Mohegan Sun where the Connecticut Sun play for the WNBA. It's going to be obviously a home crowd for them, the defending national champions, but also I think, unanimous number one team this season. So it's a great test for us to see where we are. We want to be in those games in March. So it's only going to prepare us for Big 12 play and prepare us for March. It's one of those games where we're going to not talk about winning. We're going to have a game plan to absolutely put our best foot forward to try to win the game. No doubt about that. But I am more concerned with that stage of the season in November. I want our players to play fearless. I want them to lock into our game plan, and I want them to compete their tails off and let the results take care of themselves. But really looking forward to that. But yeah, circling back, we got Utah State Friday in Logan, Utah. First time the Utes have been back there since, I think, 2017. So I know they're going to be ready. Coach Brooks is going to have them ready to go, and we're going to do the same thing, and it should be a good game for the fans to see.
Tell me about your league this year, because Iowa State is the 14th ranked team in the country. Baylor's 16, TCU is 17, but TCU has been picked to win the league by both the coaches and the media. Clearly a lot of good teams, several in the top 25, but why would you characterize TCU as the favorite as it pertains to the coaches and the media members who voted this preseason?
Yeah, I think, Mark Campbell does a great job there at TCU. He's been able to, bring in transfers, impact transfers at that, to, use their last season of eligibility to play. And it's worked out for him, and he's doing a great job there. Yesterday, Baylor beats Duke in Paris. So, our conference, from top to bottom, is a great conference. It's very physical, very competitive. The coaching in the league is elite. And the variety of styles of play that are within our conference, it's amazing, because every game you have to be at your best. Your coaching staff has to be at their best because the coaching is just that good. But yeah, Iowa State, I think they're going to be really, really good. I think we're going to have probably 3 to 4 teams host the first and second round. I wouldn't be surprised to see 4 teams in the Sweet 16. And hopefully we get 8 teams into the NCAA tournament. I think our league is that good top to bottom. And I think we, as individual schools, we have to go and prove that in the non-conference. And then obviously the Big 12 conference play is just going to be a battle each and every night out.
Well, Gavin, thank you for the time today, sir. Congrats on the opening season win, and best of luck in Logan. We'll get you back on soon, okay?
Thank you, Spence. Always a pleasure to be on, and go Utes.
All right, Gavin Peterson, head coach of the Utah women's basketball team, opening win against Sioux Falls. I believe it's 7 new players on the roster. I think 5 of them are freshmen, and most of them got time game 1. Yeah, the league looks to be good this year. I think there's 5 teams in the top 25. Iowa State is the highest ranked team, then Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, but TCU has been picked to win the league by both the coaches and the media. Utah is picked to finish 8th. BYU is picked to finish 10th. All right, we'll catch a break. TV voice of the Utah Jazz, Craig Bowler-Jack, will join us coming up on the other side. But I want to tell you about my friends at Advanced Window Products Fall Football Special going on right now. Now, this is the company owned by Nate Orchard, still the mayor of Sac Lake City. John Henry Daly might have something to say about that this year, but he's got a lot of work to do over the final few games to catch Nate. Nate Orchard, Jake Weber, great dudes. We've had them in studio a ton, been on remote at their place a bunch of times. And if you need new windows right now, call right away at 801-850-9100. But the nice thing about this deal is if you anticipate needing new windows in the next, month or so, because the weather's been beautiful. So your house might not be super cold just yet, but if you've noticed that your house gets chilly, even if you have the heat jacked up, it's probably because of your windows But if you anticipate needing it in 3 or 4 weeks, if you call today, you lock in the savings by just getting on their schedule. It's $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. Our friends at Advanced Window Products at 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, 801-850-9100, or online at advancedwindows.com. 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. Craig Buller, Jack Gordon Monson. That's your 3 o'clock hour of a Tuesday edition of The Drive, and it's good to have you along for the ride right here on ESPN 700. Got the NFL trade deadline coming up, and an unusual amount of movement as the New York Jets have waved the white flag. Quinnen Williams is headed to Dallas. Sauce Gardner is headed to the Colts. And, well, the Jets suck anyway. Now they suck even worse. Our next guest has a favorite football team who is the Vegas favorite to win the Super Bowl again. Craig Bowler-Jack, your Kansas City Chiefs are back on top of the line to win the Super Bowl once again. It must be a good time to be a Chiefs fan.
Well, Spence, good to talk to you. I'm not sure after that Bills loss, but, I guess there's always hope. Mahomes has played pretty well. He's got some really good wide receivers and speed on that field if they can just hold it defensively. But love this time of year, man. Got football midway through. Just had a wild World Series. Unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable 7-gamer. And the Jazz pick up a win in Boston, right? So, wow, not bad.
A lot going on. Bowler, of course, best known as the TV voice of the Utah Jazz, called football for a number of different years. Does the game hit any different, Bowler, when it is the NBA Cup? I know what they're trying to do. Do you feel like it's working? Is the buzz around this tournament working?
I got to be honest. The only buzz is the floor. I think the players, there is maybe for the younger guys, maybe a bit of intrigue, but I really think, you give Adam Silver some credit to try to generate, something early in the season, but I think it's too early personally that you really haven't established who these teams are and you're playing a cup. That's just me. The floors, are kind of really the talking point of the entire, cup tournament, and we'll see what Minnesota has to offer when we play them on Friday night. But I think it takes time. You can't force these type of things on the fans or even the players. It takes years, I think, to build maybe some pride in the cup. I think it's the same way, Spence, in my opinion, on the way you build rivalry. In any sport, you can't manufacture it. The Sunflower Showdown, Kansas State and KU, they've had years and years to do it. BYU and Utah, you can't match it, honestly. And they try to do the Colorado Utah rivalry as the Rocky Mountain Showdown, and you got to have reasons to remember games. Things have to happen, and moments in time. And I don't think there hasn't been enough time for the Cup to really find a foundation. Maybe it will one day. Maybe it should. Again, for me, I just think that the season is so young that you have to establish, I don't know, some standings and and make sure that the teams you're playing have a little bit of something, down the road that that people want to remember. I mean, the Jazz in Minnesota, okay, you got Gobert and Conley and Joe Ingles. Phoenix is, kind of ever changing, as are the Jazz. And I think in the NBA it's more difficult because players do come and go and change teams so often.
I don't think the league has done a very good job with its messaging, or it's kind of, and I'm not asking you to criticize the league because, the Jazz are a subsidiary of the NBA. And so I'm not asking you to criticize the NBA. I just like when the Jazz were playing the Suns, I do this for a living. And it wasn't until I was like reading the game preview. It's like, hey, it's Emirates NBA Cup Day. I feel like if the league wants to really push this, they need to work on their messaging and informing people a little bit more about exactly what it is.
No, you make a great point. I know that the league sent out several, emails and discussion points and really what the cup is, but I still think it needs time, and maybe time will tell us it doesn't work. I think they're trying to again do what hockey, soccer is trying, just to try to raise the bar and continue to drill interest into the fan base. But again, I don't think you can manufacture it, Spence. It has to be felt and be real, with the fan base. And again, the floors are the centerpiece, and the prize money, you get to go to Vegas, right? But at the same time, the ultimate prize is to win the NBA championship. And I don't think you can ever make that any less than what it truly is. I mean, if the league and when the league does expand overseas with teams, then you really would get the quote world championship, right, of basketball, if that and when that does happen, in my opinion. But yeah, right now I think it's too young, it's too fresh. It just hasn't been able to really grab a hold of the fan base yet, and we'll see. It may take a couple of years or more, or it may never. It may never grab hold. But at least I think the league is trying to throw some things out there to see if it sticks and if the fans will embrace it.
Are you currently in Detroit?
Yeah, we just got here about an hour ago.
Okay. Where does Detroit rank on the list of great NBA markets? It looks like the weather's not too bad today, 56 and cloudy.
Yeah. No, we had a bumpy flight coming over. I think we went above and went high into Canada and then back in over the Great Lakes. But, we're only here once a year, Spence, and never get a chance in the East to really gravitate and get to know a city that well. I mean, Detroit, the Motor City, for me, every time I think of Detroit, I'm sure you do as well, knowing your Knick background, is that just the Rodman Lambeer and Isaiah Thomas days and the battles they had with Chicago. I mean, Detroit were the bad boys. And, they've got a pretty young, very talented team with Cade Cunningham leading the way. But, again, they're trying to rebuild like the Jazz on what was, and can they bring it into the future? But, man, it's hard to – when you think of Stockton and Malone and the Jazz, okay, 97, 98, then you think even before that you had the bad boys and what Lambeer – man, I just remember being a younger guy watching just the league just being so physical. And Lambeer would sacrifice body any time to put Bird on his back. And you know what they did to Michael. They try to bully him every time he walked up the floor. So that's kind of what I remember about Detroit. And they've had some struggles, but they're building slowly through the draft, and they have some pretty good talent. And we'll see how it turns out tomorrow night.
Yeah, and Dennis Lindsay is a part of that front office. They've built a good solid.
Yeah.
I actually really like their team, Craig. Yeah, but before we get to Detroit, let's do a couple things here with the start of the season for the Jazz. So a win in Boston the other night, that breaks a 3-game losing streak. But let's talk big picture for a moment because, I had you on before the season started. And if there's one thing that I think Jazz fans should feel really good about so far is that, and we'll see if the Keontae stuff is real, but it's real so far. And it's a big deal, okay? It's a big deal because we need one or two of these young players. And I'm going to throw Ace and Walter kind of to the side for now because they're just so young and we're 7 games into their journey. But when it comes to Taylor or Flip or, anyone outside, I'll say anyone outside of Lowry and Walker, we have to get somebody to pop a little bit to indicate that they'll be part of the future. And so far, Keontae has answered every question. Tell me what you've seen from Keontae George through 7 games.
I've seen a totally different person, I think, within himself, Spence. I think he had a little bit of a soul-searching summer where he decided he wanted to be a high-level professional, and he had to know what it took to get there. It's a 7-game sample size, but so far what you see is very promising. 31 last night. Will Hardy and him have had a interesting relationship, I think, very poignant at times and truthful to one another. They've built some trust, which is good. I think Keontae just feels better in his own skin, and it's proving to be that on the floor. Last night, I just thought he handled the offense, and there was pressure last night on the floor multiple times. Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Pritchard, and that team is good despite Tatum's absence with the Achilles. But I just thought he held his own, and in crunch time he came up with some plays, and he's getting to the free throw line too, Spence. The big thing here is he's kind of quit searching for the foul, which a lot of players do. And he's just kind of doing his thing, and as Will likes to explain it, he runs a straight line now, more to the rim. And if he draws a foul, then that's fine. He goes to the line 13 times last night, and he hits 11. I think he's up about 97% from the stripe before last night's game. So whatever's working's working. And he, I think, dove into himself. Sometimes people have to do that. And, it's been a good thing for him. And we'll see if it lasts. But 7 games in so far, the sample size is very good.
I want to ask you about, because it's always interesting to get the take of somebody who's on the road with the team. There were a couple of occasions throughout the past couple of years, and look, this is this is a little bit of an old school thing and might be a little bit of a nothing burger. I don't love watching players kind of yuck it up after losses and just like laugh on the bench and have a good time or not take it seriously. And I want to be clear, the undercurrent of this contextualized is Keontae's been playing for a team that at times over his first couple of years has been unserious about competing for reasons that we all know. But have you seen him grow as a person? Have you seen him grow as a leader? Have you seen like a maturation of who Keontae is just as a young man?
Yes, all the above. I saw what you saw. Fans saw that as well. And I think the Jazz with Austin Ainge and the messaging is a little bit different. In fact, I think it's a lot different. And that Keontae understands if he wants to be on this roster or have a long career in this league, then he had to change his whole approach. And, pardon me, one of those things, Spence, is – I guess I got a dry throat from flying here. Sorry about that.
All good.
But the bottom line is I think the respect that he has within his teammates is totally different too, because as you know, leadership comes in 2 ways. You can do it on the floor, but also how do you handle it in the locker room and how do you coach up a teammate? And from what I've seen on the road and also in shoot-arounds and practice is that he's willing to share the information and is more out front in directing the way the team should play on the floor, an extension of Will. And I didn't see that much last year. I thought it was more, it's about me. I think it's more about we, and that's a good thing, and that's the whole part of it. Spence, I think what the league's going through, and the Jazz are a great example, when you start to draft 18 and 19-year-olds, I would not have been ready for this type of responsibility when I was that age. And I think most of us would agree and be honest with ourselves that we wouldn't have been. The spotlight, the money, all the above, and responsibility. And I think it's a process, and I think the league is going to have to wait for some of these players to actually mature before you know who they are. It's not like a 24-year-old Walter Clayton Jr. coming in after winning a national championship, or a Thurl Bailey who did it in '83 at North Carolina State, and the Jazz took him, number 7. I think the whole league is so young that the patience of front office personnel and coaches are going to be, pushed to the limit. And, Will's in his 4th year, and he's grown with this team. He's grown with Keontae. And I think those two are kind of finally on the same page. And it takes time. That's why it's tough to make a decision on who stays and who goes when you're drafting, a guy who basically played, 1 semester of college basketball, and then he's on his way to the NBA. It's a tough roll of the dice, and you got to have some luck along the way.
So, as a team, the past couple of years, defensive rating, they've been the worst in the NBA and historically bad when you look at a couple of metrics. This year, they're 21, which isn't good, but it is a little bit of an improvement. And I wanted to ask you about Elijah Harkless, because it's one thing for a coach to say, look, we're going to guard, and if you don't guard, you won't play. But it's another thing for a coach to say, you're not guarding, so you're not playing. And so we've seen Elijah Harkless, step in and take some of the sensible minutes, because as much as I love Bryce's ability to knock down shots, there are just too many moments where he either loses focus or just isn't trying defensively. And when you look at the plus-minus stuff, when Elijah has been in the game, Craig, he has affected the game defensively by his ability to guard both on ball and then in team concepts, which is what Will is trying to teach. So Will is proving what he is saying, that if you do not guard, you will not play. And if I'm Bryce Sensabaugh, I'm getting the message, because Elijah Harkless should not be playing in front of Bryce. But the reason he is that he guards. Tell me what you've seen.
No, I mean, Will's made it clear. If you want to be in this league, we have some big decisions to make, and defense is key. If you can't play defense, then you can't play in the NBA, or at least on this team. And I'll be honest, he's been impressive. Elijah last night again jumps in, is harassing and constantly moving the feet and putting a body on players. I'm looking at the box score. He was a +7 in the plus-minus category. In fact, the entire bench was in the plus category last night, Spence. And that's what turned things around to a dismal first half of, 36 points, and the Jazz ended up scoring 38 alone in the third. The league's crazy. I mean, how can you score 36 and a half and then all of a sudden get 38 in the third? Well, you play defense and you give yourself second chance opportunities, and you rebound. And Elijah, to his credit, I think it's almost like contagious when one guy starts to go in and sacrifice the body, and you get the rest of the team to kind of come along for the ride. So I was impressed. He's been he's been all in, totally focused on what he's using his best ability to make this team and to play in the NBA. Is he a dynamic scorer? We haven't seen that. Could he score? Can he drive and finish? I've seen it. But what he does, he helps his teammates better by basically, quote, getting into the jock of the opponent and just causing a situation where you can get a steal or help Walker be a better defender, or Lowry become a better defender, or some help defense. And that's what we've seen. And I think Will Hardy has a hard time keeping him off the floor right now. And if Sensabaugh wants to get back on the floor, minutes are few for a lot of these guys. You're going to have to prove your worth. And that's really what this whole year, I think, is going to come down to. Who stays, who goes. And it's a tough decision for Austin and Justin Zanuck and Will Hardy to make. But I think the players will ultimately make that decision, for them.
To continue the theme about Will, and Ryan Smith himself, preseason media, said, the things I feel like I know about our group is we have a star in Will and a star in Austin Ainge. And I very much badly, from a media perspective and an observer perspective, I want Will at some point to have a fair fight when he enters a gym with his roster, because I think it's going to look really interesting. But when you look at where they continue to struggle, they're second to last in the league in turnover percentage. Only the Clippers are worse. But where they're good, Craig, and this is important, they're number one in the NBA in assist percentage. And for our listeners, right, what that means is the amount of baskets that are made via an assist. Now, teams like the Clippers and teams like, the Rockets, when it comes to isolation-heavy teams, you're not going to see them on this list. But the Jazz are one and the Warriors are two, right? So Steve Kerr coached with Greg Popovich and played under Greg Popovich and kind of came to light as a head coach. Because I can remember when a lot of people thought Steve was going to coach the Knicks because he had coached with Phil Jackson and played on those Bulls teams, and Phil was running the Knicks. And Steve, watched Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and said, I think I'll coach them and not Carmelo Anthony, so I'm taking the Warriors job. So Steve plays this free-flowing San Antonio Spurs circa 2008 to 2015 type offense, and Will wants to play the same way. And right now the Jazz lead the league in assist percentage, the number of baskets that come via an assist. That indicates, even with a roster that isn't necessarily among the more talented teams in the NBA, they're understanding what Will is asking from them on offense to move the basketball.
Yeah, it's the blender of old, right? Where the ball continues to move and pop. And I'll be honest, Nurkic has given the Jazz a little life in that as well, because he's out front setting a screen, ball comes his way. I've been impressed with some of the slip passes he's been able to push into the paint and score. The bigs have complemented each other quite well. And Keontae, as of last night, was top 5 in assists in the NBA. They've been in the high 20s. I think they had one game in the 30s earlier. Here we are 7 games in. I'm thinking earlier. It's been 2 weeks. But there's a lot of promise in the ball movement, Spence. And I think the bigs have been maybe the biggest improvement of all, of putting Filipowski and Walker. I hope he stays healthy, and Markkanen. And those guys seem to have a pretty good connection in the 8 to 10 foot range where they can pop that ball in. And Kevin Love has had a few games now under his belt, and we know what he can do with the ball too. Love is an interesting addition as well. I don't think we see him play much, but with Walker's injury, you blow the whistle. Here comes Kevin Love, 18-year pro, and he had some game left, no doubt.
Bowler, as a man who makes his money with his pipes, I'm going to set you loose because you've got to go take care of those things. But before I do, let me just ask you, because I like both Ace and Walter, and I think Walter's game against Boston may have been his best game as a pro. But we're seeing Ace be brought along slowly, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But again, as somebody who's traveling with the team, what are kind of the thoughts on these two young rookies, Walter Clayton Jr. and Ace Bailey?
Well, I see the concern of, people say, why don't you play Ace? Why don't you play, Walter Clayton Jr. more? I think Ace got behind because of illness. And, again, in bed 5 or 6 days and you lose, some conditioning. And I think the plan was, look, he's a number 5 pick and everyone's going to have their eyes on him. Let's give him some time to watch and learn, and I think you're going to see his minutes go up as the season continues. I see great ability and athleticism. You do as well. Jazz fans see it. He's given flashes to us, and I think it just will be a matter of time, not a long time, but a short period of time that Ace will claim more minutes. Will he start? Maybe. Will he finish games? Probably. Will, like most coaches, and Popovich comes to mind, and that's where Will comes from, is a Popovich, coaching tree. And Sloan said the same thing. Hey, it's who finishes games. The starting thing gets all bent out of shape, but it's about minutes played and how well you finish and who's on the floor that the coaches trust. I think Ace has just a huge upside. I think he's embraced what he's doing. He's embraced his franchise. He's embraced his teammates. They've embraced him, and I think it's just going to be a good thing. I know fans want to see him now, but I think that we'll see him a lot as the clock ticks. And Walter Clayton Jr. has just a really amazing ability to run at his own speed and pace. But Spence, you see it. I see it. He's very mature. He doesn't get he doesn't get rattled. And I think it just gives the Jazz a couple of different ways to run the offense with pace. Will he start? I don't think at this moment, no, because we got to get Isaiah Collier and get enough feel for what he's about since he had the early hamstring injury in training camp. But the Jazz have options, and I think that's what front office people like. Let me see what we have, and then we're going to move forward. And the Jazz do have some options to work with, and I'm excited to see which way they go. Look, last year we knew the direction of the team. This year, I'm going to say this because Will has said it. He wants players, Spence, basically to show they want to win, that this is an effort every night. This isn't just 82 games of just kind of going along for the ride. You're given the opportunity in this league. Go out and prove it that you belong, and go out and show me how to win. And you know what? With that, the tank season of last year was, I think, pretty well known. I'm not sure if tank is in anyone's vocabulary at this particular time. It's about going out and proving you belong here. You belong to get an NBA contract and an extension, and that winning is part of your daily vocabulary and the way that you work. I think that's the message that's being sent right now.
Bowler, we have Gordon Monson live in studio for an hour coming up. Is there a message you'd like to send? Still upset about being stood up for lunch? Still upset about being left in Mexico? He can hear you. All of the above? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, look, Mexico still rattles me to this day.
Yeah.
The lunch, I had 3 glasses of iced tea and a club sandwich. Mm-hmm. And after an hour and 12 minutes, I said, I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
and it hurts, but I'm still trying to get over those things.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you would ever call me and say, let's go, and if it's Burger King, so be it. I'll take that.
Mm-hmm. If I can see through the window, I think Gordon is currently flipping you off. I think he's giving you the double bird. If I can see through our glass here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I won't tell you what I'm doing in Detroit then. But no. I love Gordo. Miss him. The big show and the big hour, man. We got to, hey, we had fun, and you know what? Love the guy. But yeah, I still don't understand why he got on the airplane and waved at me as he went through the door and left us there. But we made it back. Okay.
You did.
Yeah.
All's well that ends well. Craig, safe travels, sir, and we'll get you in studio soon.
Right.
Thanks, buddy.
We'll do it. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
All right, the TV voice of the Utah Jazz. Jazz back in action coming up tomorrow against a really good Detroit Pistons team that has been rebuilt in no small part by Dennis Lindsey, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren. That's a good team. They're 7-2, so we'll see what the Jazz can do. All right, before we catch a break, I want to tell you about my friends at Game Day Men's Health. Now, here's the bottom line. As you age, even into your 30s, 40s, 50s, what have you, breaking news. I'm not a fitness expert, but I can tell you it's harder to get in shape, and it's even harder to stay in shape, all right? So a couple of years ago, I made a goal. Said I want to get into the best shape that I've ever been in as an adult. So cleaned up some habits, started eating very clean, hit the gym, went to yoga, and within 3 months, I'm like, why isn't this working? Why didn't this work the way it did when I was in my 20s? Well, it's because I'm now in my 40s. So I had a friend ask me, have you ever tried supplementing testosterone, TRT therapy? And I hadn't. I had no idea what it even meant, quite frankly. So he recommended Game Day Men's Health. And I love that they're a client because I can give you a personal testimonial. So I went to Game Day Men's Health. They gave me a consultation. They took some blood, went over some levels, and recommended that I start supplementing testosterone and then utilizing some of their peptides. Now, if you need to lose a lot of weight, if you're getting close to like pre-diabetic situation, they have tirzepatide, semaglutide, all the tides, the weight loss tides, they've got all of them. But I use their testosterone and their peptides. And within the next 3 months, I made like 5 times the progress than I had over the first 3 because biohacking is a very affordable thing now in a way that it didn't used to be. It used to be for elite athletes or very rich people. That's not the deal now. And especially with the way Game Day Men's Health is kind of formulating this deal for you guys as listeners of my show. So if your libido is low, I'll just say it helps. We'll leave it there. If your energy levels, though, low, it helps. Get you more motivated to work out, and you will see results quicker. If you don't feel like you want to take your shirt off at the pool in the summer, if your wife doesn't look at you the way she used to, you can get back into shape in a matter of months utilizing Game Day Men's Health. So here's what they're giving you. Number one, a free consultation. You pay nothing. If you tell them you heard me talking about it on the show. The consultation is a little bit of blood work. They go over your levels, and then they lay out a plan for you. And then they follow up, which is good. You go in once a month and take new levels, and they adjust. But number two, here's the kicker. It's 50% off your first year of membership. You're saving hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. They've got a bunch of different locations. I go to the one in Cottonwood Heights, but they've got one in Lehigh, Pleasant Grove, South Ogden. So go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Schedule a consultation and make sure to tell them that you heard me talking about it so you get the free consultation and 50% off your first year membership with our good friends at Game Day Men's Health. All right, we'll catch a break, but an hour of radio gold with the legend himself, Gordon Monson, live in studio on ESPN 700. You know, it's such a great Beatles song, but it's not indicative of what's about to come. The song is called Here Comes the Sun, but we do have Gordon Monson live in studio for the next hour. I guess I should say, I've worked with you for years. You can bring the sunshine depending on your mood. So let me start out with the mood. Which Gordon are we dealing with today?
I'm in a good mood.
You're in a good mood?
Yeah, I'm in a good mood today.
Is it because it's nice outside?
What doesn't hurt?
Yeah.
I love when the sun comes. I like it. Yeah.
You and I have always been of the same mind there. Like, I said this to a friend the other day. I could live my entire life and never see another snowflake and be fine. Give me sun all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way I feel about it. But my wife is a seasons person. She likes the change of the seasons. And I can handle that a little bit. Fall here is usually, look at it today. It's just unbelievable. But, I'm after a while, when it's snowing and snowing and snowing, I can head to the beach.
No, I'm with you. We were talking off air. Do you have a favorite Beatles album? Like, if I asked you to pick the number one Beatles, because you're a huge Beatles guy, you always have been.
Watch Let It Be, the new, the refurbished one.
So good.
The other day. That's a great question, Spence. And I argue with myself. It's one of those deals with the devil and the angel.
Oh, I remember.
And they're arguing back and forth on it. But I mean, how can you not like Revolver? But how can you not like Abbey Road? How can you not like Rubber Soul? I like Help. I mean, it's a tough call.
I have an out of the box opinion on this because you're probably right. It probably is Revolver, but I have a soft spot for Sgt. Pepper's. I don't know why. I think it was the first Beatles album I dug into. I think I've told you the story before. My Uncle Nate, bless his heart, when we moved back east, he's like, this is probably going to be tough on this little 11-year-old kid. So he gave me a Walkman with a bunch of tapes. One of them was Sgt. Pepper's. The other was Beach Boys. Pet Sounds, which was beautiful. And a couple of other Beatles albums. He was a Beatles and Beach Boys guy. So I was kind of indoctrinated into the Beatles by Sgt. Pepper's. So I don't think that's the answer, but it might be my answer.
I'm not going to argue with you about that. I even like the White Album.
For sure.
Listen, do me a favor, and this is a really underrated song, but it's one of my favorite Lennon songs, Julia, about his mom. What a beautiful, beautiful song that is. It's just like, and I know there are people out there, maybe younger people, I don't know, maybe some older folks, who think the Beatles are overrated and whatnot, but not in my mind, man. Not only is the music great, the innovation is great, and the influence is great on the music, on generations of music. Still, Paul McCartney's out there touring. He really, he doesn't sing the way he used to, but okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Who's the better singer, Lennon or McCartney?
I'm a Lennon guy. We did this for years, and I love McCartney. I've met McCartney. When he was here, we actually got to meet him.
I'm so jealous of you. I tell everybody that story.
It was so cool.
Spence has met the man.
He let us in for his sound check when he was here at Rio Tinto Stadium a number of years ago, and it was watching genius at work, because what he would do is he would tune a guitar and then tune a bass and then go over to the drummer and then talk to the drummer and then go to the keyboardist, and he was telling everybody exactly where they needed to be prior to actually playing the show that night. And then he came over, he gave my father an autographed guitar, which he still has in his office, and shook all of our hands and spent like 20 minutes. He was the nicest guy. It was like, because the old saying, don't meet your heroes.
Yeah.
He completely contradicted all of it. It was such a honor and a pleasure to meet him. It was very cool.
What you just described there, Spence, was part of the friction that was born out of the Beatles in the later years.
Yep.
I mean, anybody who saw the Peter Jackson thing, you saw that George got tired of Paul telling him what to do and how to do it.
Yep.
But he was such a perfect. He had this, and I find this genius. It really is, that someone has an idea in their mind and they want it that way.
Yeah.
And is it always reasonable? No. And maybe this transforms into other walks of life as well. But McCartney definitely has an idea about what a song should be like. He was furious with Spector about what he did to the Long and Winding Road with that wall of sound.
Yeah.
He wanted it to be, and I think on the Let It Be Naked album, what's it called?
I think this, yes, the Let It Be Naked album, yeah.
He rearranges that a little bit and makes it sound more like the way he intended it to be. But anyway, if you don't like the Beatles, I guess I don't really understand why. But most people obviously think it's the greatest band of all time.
Rolling Stone reader's pick is Revolver 1, Sgt. Pepper's 2, Abbey Road 3. So, but again, everyone can have their own different, Rubber Soul is 5, Magical Mystery Tour 6, Help is 7. They have so many damn albums that are so good. It is wild. Let It Be is 8.
All of it within like a 7-year period.
Yeah,
too.
it's just wild, man. So many great songs, so many great albums. All right, Gordon, are you arguing with yourself right now about how good BYU football is?
I am. I've come to the conclusion I think they're pretty damn good. I mean, how can you deny that based on what we've seen? The team has not capitulated, has not played horribly for a whole game. They've had stretches where it wasn't going so well, but they've been able to overcome that. And so, I think that team has a chance to be the best BYU team of all time.
Of all time.
And I don't know whether they will. I mean, they got work to do. They got business ahead of them. But, man, are they – I mean, that is a team that is complete. How can you argue with what Bear Bachmeier is doing? I mean, as a freshman, it's just a remarkable thing to watch. And I like watching teams. I don't need to see a team win by 50. I don't care. That bores me, whatever. But when I see a team fight back and beat opponents that they're not favored to beat, then I respect that. And we talked about this a little bit last week, Spence. It's like I compare it to your golf game, when you start out and you have a couple bogeys, and it's hard to turn that momentum around sometimes. And BYU has done that again and again and suddenly had birdies. And they can change around in the middle of the round, and I don't know how many teams can do that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So tonight at 6 o'clock, we get the first iteration of the CFP rankings, and moving forward, that will be the only poll that matters. The coaches poll is unserious. The AP poll can kind of tell a story occasionally here or there.
What's your prediction?
So it's interesting because I was reading around this morning, listening to some stuff this morning. It's a new set of criteria. So it's 12 members of the committee. They're going to rank 30 teams tonight. And what they've said is they're utilizing a bunch of new advanced metrics to try to identify who the best teams are today. Mm-hmm. So momentum counts, strength of record counts, your health counts. Missouri is without its quarterback the rest of the year. That will matter. So let's say Utah was really good and Cameron Rising was hurt. This year that matters more than it did a year ago. Like if you're undefeated, like if Bear, knock on wood, if Bear got hurt this week in practice, even though BYU's undefeated, they would take that into consideration. They're going to look at who you played. They're going to look at, quote, bad losses. They're going to look at signature wins. Then they're going to look at predictive models like the S&P Plus and Football Power Index. And what's interesting, Gordon, and I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with this. I'm just bringing the data on air. If you look at the S&P Plus, which is predictive, it's Bill Conley's system, he has Utah at 6 in the country. He has Texas Tech at 4. And then he has BYU at 16. Like, these advanced metrics have questions about BYU. Now, BYU can shut everybody up on Saturday morning. Let's be clear. But if we move over to FPI, Utah is number 7 in the country. Texas Tech is 11. BYU is 14. So a little bit better in the FPI. But BYU has a signature win. That is Utah and Salt Lake. Texas Tech has, in my opinion, the best win in the conference. And that is, BYU has Utah and Provo. Right. Texas Tech has, in my opinion, the best win in the conference, which is Utah and Salt Lake. But if BYU wins in Lubbock this Saturday, that instantly, in my opinion, becomes the best win in the Big 12, and they will shut everybody up. No one will have any questions anymore.
Agree with you 100%. I don't really like the idea of good losses. I mean, I think winning matters.
For sure.
And it should matter. Yep. And it should matter in a way that goes beyond some of these other metrics. And BYU deserves credits. I mean, how can you list Utah at 6 and BYU 10 slots behind that when BYU beat the Utes?
Yeah.
I mean, that matters to me. I know it doesn't matter to all the eggheads out there who want to turn it into a numbers game or some sort of formula, because I think a bad win is much better than a good loss. And that's my view on it. I don't know how this is going to turn out today, but I have more respect for what BYU has done this year than that formula that you mentioned. Although I do think the Utes are really good. I think they're good. I just don't think they're as good as BYU.
Head-to-head has to matter.
Yeah.
It has to matter. I mean, if head-to-head doesn't matter, what are we doing here? Because I say this all the time. because we'll get into a debate about form and strength of schedule and strength of record and who have you played, who have you not played. And I always use the same line, and that is, thank God in sports we have a scoreboard.
Yeah.
So we can throw everything out and say, okay, you beat him head to head, and it doesn't matter if it's in Provo, it doesn't matter if it's in Salt Lake, it doesn't matter if it's a neutral field. I think the unfortunate thing for the Big 12 this year is their three best teams have all played each other. Mm-hmm. If the scheduling fell a little bit different, we could have an undefeated Utah team, we could have an undefeated BYU team, maybe a one-loss Tech team or something, and that would indicate that down the stretch there's an excellent chance the two Big 12 teams get into the CFP, because I'd really like to see that. But if the committee comes out tonight, so BYU's ranked 8th in the AP and 8th in the coaches poll, which, like I said, after tonight it's not going to matter. But if the committee comes out tonight and they say, okay, their strength of schedule isn't great, their strength of record isn't great, because the other thing they're telling us they're going to look at is, have you played close games against bad teams? Colorado, bad team. BYU barely escaped. Arizona, bad team. BYU barely escaped. So if the committee comes out tonight and BYU at 8 in both the coaches and the AP is like 11 in the CFP rankings, everyone's going to be like, so what exactly are you valuing? And are we actually saying that winning games doesn't matter? Because that's counter to everything we know about sports.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. And I don't like even these formulas. There are values placed on certain things, but the values are biased, in my opinion. This is what's so frustrating about the SEC and in some cases the Big Ten, is that the whole thing is slanted their way, and there are people who have a certain idea about how good a team is, and then they factor that into wins and losses against that particular team. And they really don't know. They don't know. And that's why, in my opinion, I lean on the wins and losses. I mean, I understand if you're playing a bunch of crap teams, then, you can say that. But I think BYU has played well. I mean, going into Iowa State and beating that team, I know they've struggled since, but beating that team on its home field as the second team to do that in the last 2 years, that says something to me.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff, give me the wins and losses and give me the head-to-head. And I understand, okay, if BYU had won 3 games this year and they somehow beat the Utes, then I get that. I'm not going to say that they're better than the Utes. For the better part of a decade, I've been saying Utah football is better than BYU football. I don't believe that anymore.
How can you? The head-to-head, and again, we have a scoreboard. We have to lean on the scoreboard. So Austin Mock, who writes for The Athletic, who I like a lot. The Athletic is, they are one of the last bastions of actual sports journalism. His projection model for tonight goes like this. Ohio State won. I don't think there's anything that you can, strength of schedule, Indiana's better. A&M is really good, but Ohio State has stayed clean. I think they have 3 wins over top 25 teams. So it's Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, A&M 3, Bama 4, Georgia 5, Ole Miss 6, Oregon 7, BYU 8, Texas Tech 9, Notre Dame 10. I mean, if you want to talk brand bias, Notre Dame lost to Miami, who just got smoked by SMU. Baylor beat SMU. Like, Utah at 17, but if they really lean into, quote, good losses, if they think BYU's 8 and Texas Tech is 9, I think there's got to be a case for Utah to be a little bit higher than 17. And this goes into, are they just going to tell us they don't like the Big 12? Are they just going to tell us their TV partners want Big 10 and SEC? This is where the conversation gets a little murky.
And Spence, you're smart enough to be able to read between the lines here. And there is a bias against the Big 12. And I'm not Mr. Paranoia. I'm not out there thinking everything's a conspiracy, that and the other. I just think that there are biases in play as these values are assigned to teams and to leagues. And I think the Big 12 has put in arrears in that regard, more than they should be. I think Utah is really good. If I had my way, I think and maybe this is bias on my part, I don't know, but I think Texas Tech, BYU, and Utah would all represent the conference really well were they to make the playoff. It won't happen. Should it happen? Maybe it should. I'm not going to sit here and just give teams that are in the SEC blessings just because they play in that league.
Yeah.
That's not good enough. If the disparity was huge, then I go there. If it's a junior college team, then obviously. but I think the Big 12 deserves more respect than it gets, and I think it deserves more respect than it will get.
So this comes from the CFP committee themselves. So we will get the first rankings tonight, and they're utilizing what they're calling enhanced metrics, okay? So one of the things in the current strength of schedule metric, more weight will now be applied to games against strong opponents. So a new added metric of record strength will help the committee determine how teams performed against their schedule, rewarding those that beat high-quality opponents while minimizing the penalty of losing to one, hence the good losses. Changes will also provide minimal reward for beating a lower-quality opponent while imposing a greater penalty for losing to one. So what that says is if BYU is 8, Texas Tech is 9, Utah should not be penalized that punitively by losing to 2 top 10 teams.
They'll be better than 17.
They should be. And then here's the main difference. I mean, outside, again, of course, head-to-head, BYU at least has a signature win. And when it comes to what the committee's going to look at, if they value Utah as a top 15-ish team, BYU can boast that. Utah cannot. Like, I don't know. Maybe Cincinnati is legitimately better than what we saw on Saturday. But, man, Utah just boat raced them. That's probably Utah's best win of the season. But the committee will look at, okay, they also beat Arizona State, but that was without Sam Levitt.
Right.
They're going to look at that stuff. So if Utah's signature win on the season is Cincinnati at home, and BYU's signature win of the season is Utah in Provo, and they have the head-to-head, it does indicate there will be a bit of a sizable gap between BYU and Utah tonight.
And I think that's the way it should be. Although I think Cincinnati's a pretty darn good team. And the way, like you said, the way the Utes handled them on Saturday, I was over there at the stadium covering that game, and I walked away impressed with what's happening in all 3 phases, as the coaches like to say.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Utes, that's a damn good football team. And I wish there was a way. I wish there was a way to include 3 teams. I know that's a pipe dream, but I just have that much respect for these teams, what I've seen of these teams thus far. And, Utah has lost to 2 really, really good football teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have. Other things to keep in mind as far as the major components of this protocol, strength of schedule, common opponents, which is interesting and brings in a weighted dynamic for Saturday night because BYU is about to play Texas Tech, who Utah's already played. Head-to-head results that we've already talked about. Other circumstances such as injuries to key players. Good news for BYU. LJ is back Saturday against Texas Tech. They're all weighted. So, all of that is kind of codified together to bring up the results. I wonder how this will change moving forward when we look at, like, BYU has to go to Cincinnati, right? Utah already beat Cincinnati. When you look at some of the Big 12 tiebreaker stuff, number 1 is head-to-head. Number 2 is wins against common opponents in the winning percentage in conference play. So BYU still has some tests to kind of overcome. But when it comes to what we've seen from them so far, the conversation just comes down to, are they good? Are they lucky? Are they both? And I'm fine saying both, Gordon. I really am, because there are some moments, like maybe God's a football fan. Maybe I've been wrong all these years. Like the muffed punt against Iowa State where it went off the kid's heel. Rocco Beck missing like 3 wide open wide receivers in the end zone. And when Rocco actually throws it to the wide receiver in the end zone, he drops it. So all of these confluence of things have really worked in BYU's favor for the past 2 years. So if I say to you, BYU good, lucky, or both, tell me where you land on that.
I think they're both, but I think it's mostly good. I mean, well, BYU's coaches like to claim that they coach these players to push the opponent into the ball on punts.
Mm-hmm.
Is that luck or is that good coaching?
Sure.
This is I don't really like what's happening here. You can spin yourself into a tizzy with coming up with all these numbers that don't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how I am about that. I think some of it has value, but if you start getting into that and you lock into that to the point where that becomes more important than results, to me, I ain't buying it. I'm not buying it. And really, it won't matter because this is the first ranking. There will be others that come subsequently. However, it will reveal the attitude, and the emphasis. So if there is a sort of a lean against BYU or Texas Tech or Utah, then I'm not sure that will just shrink away.
Another procedural change this year. So there's been a recusal policy in the past. It's been updated with two separate distinctions: a full recusal, which is what the previous policy was, where essentially if you have a tie to a conference or a team, you remove yourself from the room. But there's a secondary recusal this year, where if you have a relationship, a secondary relationship with a school, like an immediate family member is employed by the school, but if you're outside of the football program or even senior administration. So they are trying to clean some of this stuff up as it pertains to some of the questions people have had about whether or not it is bias. But to
baked in, Spence.
Yeah,
it's baked in.
It is. And to reduce it to one thing, I mean, we cannot pretend that the lifeblood of this sport, which is live TV rights, and TV partners don't have something to say about it. We just can't pretend like that's not the deal. And, ESPN has tried to save face the past couple of weeks, game day here and then game day in Lubbock. But, dude, I watch these college football shows almost every day, and they are so SEC and Big Ten by. Like, that's all they talk about. Yeah. And if you even listen to some of the big college football podcasts, and the nice thing about podcasts is you can timestamp. So if I want to hear Klatt break down BYU or Josh Pate talk Utah or whoever, I can actually go to the 45th minute of their hour-long podcast. But the first 40 minutes are like all about who's coming out of the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yep, and I think that's not an advantage for college football. I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what can be done about it. Because these biases have been there for a long time, Spence, but I think they're exaggerated now. Again, you can create any formula you want, but if there are values assigned to each part of it, and if the values are not correct or are somehow leaning one way or the other from the get-go, then you can justify just about anything that you want justified.
Yeah. It feels a little political, where you can just find the metric that backs up your cognitive dissonance already.
But don't take away the records. Don't take away the wins. And again, if you lose to a good team, okay, you deserve some credit for that, especially if it's a competitive game. Mm-hmm. But winning is winning. That's just the way it is. And I've seen it so many times, Spence, with good teams who find a way to win regardless of what the muck of the game itself. And I have so much respect for that. That's my bias. If there's a W next to a team's name in just about any respectable game, then that carries more weight than any of this other BS we're talking about. But I'm not sure the committee is going to view it that way.
This is not a new conversation we've had in this market. I mean, the 2004 and 2008 Utes, they beat everybody that's on their schedule, but they were not in consideration for a national championship. And if you're BYU, you beat everybody on your schedule. You're one of 4 unbeaten teams left in in the entire FBS situation. So based off of that, there's really nothing else BYU can do up to this point, maybe outside of stomping some of the lesser schools they played that have turned out to be close games, because that will kind of come into play.
And college football has always been fractured in regions.
Yep.
Although those regions have been stretched all kind of ways. But, it's like you say, the thing I like about the NFL is that teams are going to be judged by their records, and there's not all this stuff that goes on with, but did they play the teams from the SEC? Mm-hmm. Did they play the teams from the Big Ten? Sometimes I look at these teams from the Big Ten. Indiana surprised me, man. That team is good.
They're legit. You win at Autzen these days, you're legit.
Last year, I didn't think that so much. This year, I believe that. Ohio State, how can you argue with those things? Those are plain to me. But look at the results. Look at who they're beating. Look at the fact that they are beating teams. And I think, Texas Tech is a damn good football team. It just is. And that's the eye test for me. And you can come up with any formula you want about, but they do this and all the stuff that you're talking about. To me, my eyes tell me what's happening with a team. And I think those 3 teams, BYU, Texas Tech, and Utah, those are all playoff-worthy teams.
I would agree.
And Utah's going to win the rest of its games.
They're going to be favored. I would agree with you, as long as the health kind of maintains. And I would love to see all 3 in. I'm hoping that the Big 12 at least gets 2, because last year was only 1. But the thing about tonight that's going to be fascinating is last year, week 1 of the CFP rankings, everyone really was informed about how they felt about the Big 12. And it's like, oh, dude, only the champ is getting in. It was pretty apparent, when they released the week one rankings.
And that's what I meant, Spence, when I said it's going to show, it's going to indicate something that won't change moving forward.
Yes, no, for sure. Finally, there's this, because we do have to be adults about the following scenario. This is a sport whose lifeblood is its TV partners. This is a sport whose lifeblood is the networks that televise its product, because live TV rights continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. I mean, you can say what you want about domestic interest in the NBA. They just signed a $76 billion TV deal moving forward with a bunch of different partners, Amazon, ESPN, and NBC. Money continues to go up when it comes to the TV partners. So if you're in charge of running a sport, you have to appease what they want.
Exactly.
So when you look at the most watched college football games this year, sorry, Big 12 fans, this is the deal. Number 1, Texas, Ohio State. Number 2, Georgia, Tennessee. Number 3, Notre Dame, Miami. Number 4, Alabama, Florida State. So now we're getting some ACC schools in, but no Big 12 teams. Number 5, LSU, Clemson. Number 6, Alabama, Georgia. Number 7, Ole Miss, Georgia. Number 8, Michigan, Oklahoma. Number 9, Oklahoma, Texas. Number 10, Oregon, Penn State. There are 0 Big 12 teams featured in the 10 most watched college football games this year. Now, that leads to the conversation. Is it simply fans wanting to watch better football, or is it the Big 12 getting screwed because of start times?
If you go back and look, that's part of it. If you go back and look, most of those games were played on ABC.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a huge difference. I think ABC is doubling up the other networks. And does it have to do specifically with the teams that are playing that day?
It's a good point.
Some of it does, but not all of it.
Yeah. No,
It'll be interesting to see this game on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's an ABC game, right?
It's an ABC game. It is 10 a.m. Mountain Time, but it's noon Eastern Time. So those soft idiots back east better be watching this game. Okay. So, but last week, this is kind of interesting. We'll catch a break after this. Alabama's featured, I think, in 6 of the top 10, most watched games all year. So say what you want. As much as it feels unfair, if you're a sport whose lifeblood is your TV partners and they say, we want a better TV show, you're going to say, okay, well, then maybe we'll favor Alabama over a team that might deserve it more because more people watch. But last week, number 1, ABC, to your point, Bama, South Carolina. 2, A&M, LSU, ABC. 3, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, ABC. 4, Michigan State, NBC. 5, Missouri, Vanderbilt, ESPN. 6, UCLA, Indiana on Fox. 7, BYU, Iowa State. 8 was Minnesota, Iowa. 9 was Utah, Colorado. So we got a couple of Big 12 teams in the top 10 last week. But from a macro standpoint, whether it's start times or network relationships, the Big 12 just isn't among the most watched college football games this year.
If the NFL did things the way college football does it, then the Dallas Cowboys would be in the Super Bowl every year.
It's true. It's true. But as Porter knows, they're not.
Is he a Cowboys guy?
Oh, he loves the Cowboys, and they stole our best defensive lineman today because the Jets are an unserious franchise.
I thought of you when I saw that. I thought, what are the Jets doing?
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
All right, we'll catch a break. Gordon Monson live in studio, but it is a big day because tonight we will see the first release of the CFP rankings. Where will BYU fall, Texas Tech, and Utah? Any other Big 12 teams in the top 25? We're going to have to wait and see, but we'll do more of this coming up on the other side of a Tuesday Drive with Gordon live in studio on ESPN 700. Got one more segment with Gordon Monson live in studio. The Utah Utes are on a bye this week, and they're going to take on the Baylor Bears coming up next week at 5 o'clock Saturday, ESPN2. That is in Waco. They'll close out with K-State and Kansas. BYU's path is a little more difficult. Well, I'll say a lot more difficult. They get Tech this weekend in Lubbock. Then it's home against a TCU team that can score some points. I mean, I don't think they've turned out to be the team everybody thought they would. They're 3-2 in conference, but 6-2 overall. They're at Cincinnati, still in the top 25. Then they close out against one of the worst teams in the conference, UCF. Gordo, let's do a little college hoops because we did see the debut of both Alex Jensen as the coach and AJ DePonsa, who's scary. But before we get there, were you surprised to see Tech installed as essentially a double-digit favorite? The line is now 9.5, but Texas Tech is a healthy favorite against BYU this weekend.
I'm not really surprised based on the way Vegas has treated BYU in recent weeks. And I think Texas Tech is really good. I mean, they deserve, I think, to be favored, but that seems like a heavy line in Texas Tech's favor.
Let me see if it's updated. Now it's back up to 10. You know, the money for the most part has gone towards Tech, so we'll see how it goes. It is an early kick time, and then Utah will be back at it coming up next week. So it's hard to tell what year one for Alex is going to look like. You know, Alex Jensen, new head coach of the Utah men's basketball team. I love AJ. He's a great, great guy, and I do think it's the right hire. BYU has proof of concept with what Kevin Young has been able to do. I think there was some skepticism with all of the hullabaloo in the press conference, and then, you know, he's an NBA guy and, you know, all this stuff with Kevin, and then was like, well, can he coach? Well, he answered it last year that he could, and they do have proof of concept as Yegor Demon is now in the NBA with Brooklyn. So I credit whoever was, you know, behind the Alex Jensen hire, I credit them for it. There are a lot of conversation about exactly how it went down. But just like Kevin can say I coached Kevin Durant or Chris Paul, you know, Al can say I coached Luka Doncic or Donovan Mitchell. It's kind of the same approach. We're going to have to get to know this team. The only player we really know is Keanu Dawes, who's back from a year ago. The Seydou Traore kid had 23 last night, 5 of 8 from 3. San Jose State, you know, Utah has a soft non-con, and it's kind of like BYU's non-con in football this year. I said that was a good thing, that they had a bit of a soft slate because they were breaking in bare, you know, as far as a freshman. And so I don't think it's a bad thing that Utah basketball won't be tested probably until December. But generally speaking, what are your expectations for Utah basketball year one under Al?
I'm not really sure how that's going to go.
Your
dog likes me.
He does love you.
It's I don't know, Spence. I really don't know. I'll admit that. I mean, it's interesting. I think Alex Jensen was a really smart hire, and I had certain people who are very close to Alex who called me and asked me whether he should take that job or not.
Yeah,
you can put 2 and 2 together to guess who that might have been, but I said he should take it, man. He will succeed at Utah. I believe that. Whether it'll happen right away, I'm not sure about that yet. But one thing I am pretty convinced of is that BYU is going to be really good. And when you have that kind of talent, anybody who watched that game, and I know you did, Spence, last night with Villanova, BYU is clearly much more talented than Nova. And so what did Nova do? They did what a team should do, and they started trying to beat up the Cougars. And it worked for a while, and then they started hitting some outside shots. And BYU did not shoot the ball particularly well. I agree with Kevin Young. When BYU starts hitting outside shots, when Richie Saunders warms up and Baker and maybe some of the other guys, then they're going to be very, very difficult to beat this year. That team is real.
No, they're real. There's no doubt about it. And the first time I saw AJ play, I was, and I'm not usually like taken back by a prospect, but it was jarring.
Yeah,
it was his combination of size, skill. Like there's really nothing he doesn't do well. He just has to continue to work and improve incrementally on like little things here or there because there's not a like gaping hole in his game. He can rebound, then he puts it on the deck. He'll bring it up. He can make he can be a ball in hand decision maker in pick and roll. He can set a screen. He doesn't look super strong, but there were a couple of moves to the bucket last night where he absorbed contact and finished through contact. Like, he's going to change an NBA team. And the other thing, Gordon, is he plays his ass off. Like, he plays hard. You know, it's an interesting background. His father, campus police officer at BU, and I think his mother was an educator, and he clearly was raised right. Like, every time I hear his parents interviewed, I come away very impressed.
They're serious people.
He doesn't appear to have any sort of, well, I'm not going to say ego. All these guys have ego, but he doesn't have, like, any inflated expectations. Like, I'm the man. You guys need to concede to my talent. You know, he plays within the team game. And this has a chance. You know, you reference BYU football, maybe the best BYU football team of all time. On paper, I'm fine saying this is the best BYU basketball team of all time. Now, due respect to the Danny Ainge, Greg Kite, Fred Roberts group, all three of those guys were pros. But the Rob Wright kid is really good. Richie's a pro. Like, Kevin might have 4 or 5 NBA players on this roster, and that's what you have to have if you want to be a Final Four basketball team.
And you've got to have the kind of balance that if someone's having an off night, the other guys can pick them up. You mentioned AJ, and look, there is a lot of hoopla. He misses a shot, and someone will compliment and say how great he is. Here's the thing about him that really stood out to me, besides the attitude stuff that you've already talked about, and that is he can create his shot whenever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And he can get good looks. Does it always go in? No. But I think NBA scouts, and you know this, you were an NBA scout, they look at that guy and they go, that guy can create his own shot whenever he wants.
Yep.
How many guys can you say that about at that level? I mean, kid's a teenager. And yet he can do that. And if he were playing in the NBA this year, I think he could do that at a limited level. But he could do it. And so his future is so bright. I know there's a lot of hype. I know he misses some shots. And I know occasionally he gets sort of bumped into shots that Kevin Young doesn't want him to take. But he'll smooth all that out. And the other thing about him is he wants to learn. That's not a cliche. That's not, people like to say that sometimes. That is somebody who has great talent, who wants to be great. And he doesn't think he is great yet. He's very confident. He thinks he can be great, but his attitude about it is, man, I got to get better.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want, because so many of these young kids raised in the AAU culture believe they've already made it. You know, a lot of them roll into college with big social media followings. Their brand is already solidified. AJ has 3 or 4 NIL deals. Like, AJ's already a multimillionaire.
He's set for life.
Outside of what BYU's paying him. Like, his off-court stuff is already through the roof, and then the report is BYU's paying between $4 and $5 million. But the interesting thing about that dynamic, as we talk about the economic stability that BYU appears to have been able to find with donors that really care about BYU athletics and are willing to write checks, it's not just about spending money. It's about spending money the right way. So when you, like, ask Penn State about spending, like, their football team was top 2 to start the season, their coach is out of a job, and they're horrible, and they spent a ton of money. So you have to spend your money wisely and on the right players and on the right people. So I know a lot of BYU fans were a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that BYU was writing a $5 million check for 1 year of basketball from this kid. But then you see him, and you're like, that's the right way to spend your money. If it's legal and you have the cash, spend it wisely. And then you see him, and you're like, oh, that's why they wrote that check for that kid.
And when you think of the publicity BYU has gotten already out of this kid, how is that not worth it? Publicity is worth a lot of money. And he creates it. Mm-hmm. And everyone's talking about him. And everyone's talking about BYU, too. Now, is BYU the only team they're talking about? No, but the paragraph they're in is unprecedented.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. And so he's already proved that he's worth whatever he's getting, because the benefits that are coming to BYU by way of that make it worth it. And, well, it'll be very interesting to see how high he can go this year and the progress he makes. The other thing about what you said about spending money wisely, Kevin Young, you got to give him credit, because he scouted around and looked for the specific things he needed to make his team better.
Mm-hmm.
He saw what happened last year against Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to have that happen again,
Yeah.
although they need to tighten up the defense on the three-point line a little bit. And that's part of what killed him against Alabama. But he went out and got the guys who he thinks are very specific to help bolster AJ and Richie Saunders.
Yeah, they missed a lot of shots last night. They missed 18 shots at the rim.
Yeah.
But, the proof of concept was kind of the way the offense was flowing because they got a lot of good looks. And this Rob Wright kid is a good lead guard. He was only 5 of 16 from last night. But if you only look at the box score, you didn't watch the game. Great straight line driver, can beat his man off the dribble, good on-ball defender. I didn't think up until last year Richie was an NBA player. I absolutely believe that he is now. He was sick prior to pregame, but still had 15 points and 7 boards. Again, just didn't shoot it very well. Keba Keita changed the game last night. Now, Keba Keita, of course, was a Ute, transferred down to BYU. He had a block shot where I don't think the ball has landed yet. He had a block on
he
wide.
saluted it, too.
He did. He had a block on a wide-open dunk that changed the momentum of the game because I think Nova was right in it at that point. He had a put-back dunk on an A.J. miss that was stunning. He's only 6'8", so I don't know what his NBA future is. Like, if Keba was 6'11", 7 feet, I mean, terrifying. Yeah. But 1 through 4 with AJ, with Keita, with Richie and Rob Wright, that's a 1 through 4 group that very few teams in the country have, if any at all.
Where else are they going to get help, Spence? Where do you think? Because I think in order for them to really be serious, get to the final in the big dance, they need more help. They need more. Where is that? Where is the guy?
The fifth piece, the parallels to draw, but OKC has Shea, and BYU has AJ.
Yeah.
Like, if you have that dude in this sport, it's why I always say football is the ultimate team game. Yes, the quarterback position is paramount, but you have to have 11 guys doing their job every single play if you want to be great. In basketball, you can find one of those transcendent wings, and one night he's unstoppable. So as AJ grows, they'll really go as he goes because he is that special.
Ultimately, yeah, and we talked about it. BYU was ahead most of the game, and then Villanova closes the gap, around 6 minutes left or somewhere?
They took the lead, yeah.
It's up in the air still. And A.J. DeMonte just sits there and said, give me the damn ball. Give me the ball. And that's what he did. But he didn't do it selfishly. He did it like, okay, this is what I'm here for. Give me the ball, feed me the ball, and I'll bring this team home. Did he do it all by himself? No. We talked about Keita and his influence. But A.J. is that. That's a great comparison. That is a great comparison with Shea because that's sort of his role on this particular team. Who, of all the pros that you've seen, Spence, who does he remind you of the most? I've heard McGrady a lot, but is that the guy?
Yeah, I like the McGrady stuff. Now, Tracy was so and this is one of the things I love about AJ, because McGrady came into the NBA out of high school, and because he was so evolved, he never had anybody, whether it was AAU or high school, that could challenge him. So he could sleepwalk through a game and get 40. And he did that, and he started to kind of let that attitude seep in when he became a pro. So he never really became a great defensive player because he didn't really care to be. But for a while, offensively, he was one of the top 2 or 3 individual offensive players in the league. What you want from AJ, because if we make this a Jazz topic, if somehow, some way, the Jazz can fall into luck and grab A.J. DeBonsa, what you want is like a Tracy McGrady offensive game, but somebody who's willing to play within a team concept and will also guard. And the early returns from A.J. is that he could be that because he does try on defense and he does not have this attitude that he's above everybody else. It's a great sign early on.
You think this is BS? Kevin Young said he thinks A.J. could be the best defender in the Big 12.
He has measurables for it. It's all about want to. It's one of the things that used to drive me crazy about Donovan. Like, Donovan was scouted out of college as a defensive stopper because, remember, even though he's not super tall, he had unbelievably long arms and big padded hands. Yeah. It's like, you're built like a great on-ball defender. Why aren't you trying? Don't let Rudy clean up every mistake you make. Please, and you know what sucks is that if you watch Donovan now in Cleveland, he's actually playing defense in a way that he never played here. So when it comes to somebody that has the measurables AJ has, all it is will and want to. Mm-hmm. And the early returns is that he has that. I mean, people down there are over the moon about him, and I think it's justified.
All these things are true, But the part that really, beyond the physical skills that he has and the dimension he has, it's the character thing.
Seems like a good kid.
I mean, he just, and by good, I mean responsible. Somebody who's mature for his age. Does he think he's good? Yes, he's cocky. Well, I'll say that, but not at the expense of his teammates. And that's how rare is that in the NBA, man? He's got such a bright future beyond what he does at BYU.
But give me a little cocky. I don't mind a little, let's be careful with the arrogant stuff, because that's when entitlement comes into play.
And what you said about Tracy, then you start getting a little lazy, right?
Yeah, give me
lazy is the poison.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but I want somebody who walks in the gym and says, I'm the best player in this gym.
And I'm going to work the hardest.
Yes, and I want, the legend about Larry Bird is he used to walk into gyms and he would say, okay, hey, what's the scoring record on this court? Because I'm going to break it tonight. Give me that on my team. I want that on my team. I want the player who walks in the gym and says, I'm the best player here.
I read his book. Was it Drive or Driven? It was one of the two.
I don't remember.
And anyway, he used to love playing in Salt Lake City.
Larry did?
Yeah. He said, speaking of walking into the gym and say, what's the record here? I'm going to break it.
Yeah.
That's a guy who could do it.
Love it. All right. Before I set you loose, I was curious about this. So, as you know, Jason Kreis has been named president of soccer operations for RSL and the Utah Royals. What advice would you have for Pablo to change the way that this team plays in order to not just make the playoffs, but I want tactics, I want schematics. Schematically, how does if Jason asked you, if he called you, said, Gordon, I want you to talk to Pablo, what would you tell him?
I would say, first of all, Jason Kreis, I know he had a little bit of a rough stretch there in a couple places, but you saw what he did when he was actually managing the team when they won the cup. So first of all, Pablo, listen to Jason. Mm-hmm. That's number one.
Yeah, definitely.
Number two, I would say possess the ball.
Possess the ball.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just, that's my favorite kind of soccer is, keep the ball and move it around and have confidence in what you're doing. Don't get greedy. Mm-hmm. Don't get selfish. Yeah. Don't press forward too much. Because then you get the counter coming back the other way, and the other team might get some lucky goal that they really didn't deserve, but because you got too greedy, they countered. Mm-hmm. So if I'm Pablo, I'd listen to Jason, and Jason will say, number one, let's possess the ball. Number two, let's not get greedy. Number three, play with good form.
What formation would you recommend they play with next year, based off the personnel they have?
That's a tough one because I'm not sure yet what they're going to look like. Huh. But I might go maybe 4-2-2.
Okay, so you want them to play with 8 players? So just keep 3 of the worst players on the sideline. Oh, okay.
And that way, if you get a red card, then, you're used to playing shorthanded.
Oh, okay. So if you get a red card.
It's never very good.
You're down 4 men if you get a red card.
Wait a minute. I counted wrong.
4-3-3
what I meant to
would
say
work,
was a 4-4-2.
Okay. That works. Yeah. All right, Gordon. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah. If you need any other soccer, if Pablo needs anything or Jason, just call me.
I'm going to give him your number with your permission.
I had breakfast with Jason not that long ago.
Nice.
Trey was there as well.
That's too bad. That's unfortunate. But I'm glad Jason was there.
But Jason was Jason.
Yeah, he's the best, man. I love Jay. Gordo, great to see you. My great friend Gordon Monson. Go to SL Trib.
4-2. Okay.
The 4-4-2 works. The 4-2-2 very much does not.
Forgot.
All right, sltrib.com for all of Gordon's work. Let's bring in Ryan from the Dish Pros. All right, do you have YouTube TV? How was your weekend? That's what I thought. Make the switch to Dish. 801-424-DISH. 801-424-DISH. Ryan, how can you help our listeners, buddy?
I could definitely get you dialed up so you can have all the channels to watch all the games this weekend and the upcoming year or two. This is an offer right now you don't want to miss. Get set up with Dish right now. The promotion is super slick now. They just took all the extra fees away. So I can actually just quote prices like America's Top 120 package, like 190 channels, $89 a month. You want to do the 200 channel package, it's like $270, 270 channels, like $109 a month. That's the total price. And it gets you better than that. That's the price with 2 or 3 TVs. So they took all the extra fees, got rid of them. Price is guaranteed to stay the same. We'll throw in movie channels and dinner at JCW's, have you installed. Listen, if you've got cable or DirecTV, you're probably going, what? Because you're spending a lot more than that. Call us up and get set up with the best price guarantee with us. Install as early as next day. And ask about internet, too. Lots of different internet options available to us. Guys, stuff from $20, $30, $50 a month. So if you're overpaying your internet or you're unhappy with it, it's just not working, don't put up with it. Call us, pay less money, and get a better internet. It's 424-DISH. It's 801-424-DISH.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Pros. More coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. All right, Gordon. About an hour and a half away from the first release of the CFP rankings. We say goodnight at 6, and then the rankings will be released right after that. So keep that in mind. We'll get back to some college football in the 5 o'clock hour. Started things off today with Gavin Peterson, head coach of the Utah women's basketball team. Did a little jazz with Craig Bolerjack. See some more college hoops, one of our favorites. Longtime college coach, been in the broadcast game for quite some time. Joe Cravens on a Tuesday afternoon. Mr. Cravens, how are you, sir?
All right. How's things with you, Spence?
Things are good. It's a great, excuse me. It's a great time of year. We've got a little bit of everything to talk about, of course, with college and pro football, NBA basketball, and now we have the start of the college basketball season. And excited around here, Joe, as you know, Alex Jensen has taken over the University of Utah men's basketball program. They opened up their season with a win last night. This is going to be a long game play, though. Somebody who coached on this level, kind of help our listeners understand, and me as well, what sort of process is ahead for Al? What are expectations right out of the gates?
Well, I was down a couple weeks ago, and I'll end up broadcasting 10 games down there for them this year. So I wanted to obviously familiarize myself with their new roster and watch them. So I saw their home exhibition game against Nevada. They lost by 3 to Nevada, who was picked third in the Mountain West Conference. And since then, and they've had one more exhibition game up at Oregon where they got down early and ended up getting beat up pretty good. But from that first exhibition to what I saw last night, I was very, very pleasantly surprised and impressed. I think they have come a long way under their new head coach. I think they're starting to gel a little as a team. They beat San Jose State, who has a veteran coach that has been around an awful lot, and Tim Miles. In fact, that was his last night was his start of his 29th college season as a college basketball coach. And they were playing without one of the guys who's going to be, I think, a starter inside in James Okonkwo, who is a transfer from West Virginia. But I think they've come a long way, and they're starting to gel as a team. I thought that was a solid win for them last night. I was going to say San Jose State picked 8th in the Mountain West Conference. It wasn't like they beat one of the top teams in the Mountain West Conference, but a good, solid team. So I think they're headed in the right direction. But I agree with you. It's going to be a process for them this year with 12 new players.
I think a year ago, it's probably safe to say the SEC was the best conference in college basketball, but this year it might be the Big 12. And most every single year, the Big 12 is either the best conference in college basketball or one of. I mean, I certainly am old enough to remember the Big East days and the ACC days, but do you feel like the Big 12 is the best conference in America this year? Give me your thoughts on the Big 12 conference overall.
Well, I think it's a very good basketball conference. I think there's going to be a lot of games played before we can say who has the best conference in college basketball. But I think the Big 12 is going to be a very good basketball conference. It's a very physical conference, which I think concerns me a little bit with this Utah team. They're long and athletic, but not very big and physical, and I think that could be a real detriment down the road. But they have now 5 more home games. Their next 5 games are all at home, and teams that you would expect a Big 12 team to beat, but they just need to grow. I think every team or every game, and then get ready to get into the Big 12, which again is going to be a very, very physically challenging for them, I think. But I think it's kind of the old baby steps type thing. They've gotten a lot better since they played their first exhibition game against Nevada, and they need to get a little bit better this Saturday night when they play Weber State.
What are the main challenges when it comes to roster construction in the modern day and age of college basketball? Because really one player basically Joe, as you know, has returned to play for the Utes this year. And then it's a bunch of new faces. Keanu Dawes decided to return. And, there are a couple of other kids who were on the roster a year ago, but as far as a production standpoint, it's Keanu. And if game one is any indication, as you referenced, the Okonkwo kid will come back and get some minutes. But, as far as building a roster and building continuity, when these kids have never played together, what are the main challenges there?
Well, one thing that I kind of failed to kind of realize and factor in the way college basketball is today. You and I, Spencer, kind of old school guys, where college basketball forever and a day started practice October 15th. And then you played your first game right around Thanksgiving. And up to that time, you could do conditioning with the guys, and the rest of the time from the start of school, and they were just in the gym kind of playing pickup ball. Well, today, those guys, this new roster, have been on campus probably since June 1st. And while there are some limitations to how much you can work with them as a team, they are still working. You still have a chance to have, I think it's, 4 to 6 hours. I should know that rule, but I don't. All summer, 4 to 6 hours a week with them, working with them as a team. So the old days of having a whole bunch of new players and starting October 15th and then starting to play games 4 to 5 weeks later, that's no longer the makeup of college basketball. The makeup is they've been together, and not just University of Utah or the Pac-12 or the Big 12. Every college team has been together all summer. So it is easier. I don't know if it's easier. You have a longer period to build a team's chemistry with all these new players than when you did in the old days when, again, you had like 6 weeks with new players and then your first game. So college teams now have been together for 4 or 5 months almost before they start playing a game. So that whole formula that we used to work by, that's no longer the case. So the challenge is the way there's just a revolving door in the front of your program in college basketball anymore. Last night, San Jose State had 9 new players. Utah has 12 new players. And, I think that's just about the way it is anymore. You're going to have, you used to want to have about a 3-player turnover in your program every year. Well, that's no longer the case. You're looking at 8, 9, 10, maybe even 12 players for almost every team across the country now.
It feels like it's so impossible now to build a program and sustain a program. Now, plenty of programs do it, but, even on the football side of things, Coach Witt has made a living finding 2- and 3-star recruits, then developing them over 3 or 4 and 5 years. It seems like it's such a challenge to build a program, maintain a program. I mean, from a consumer standpoint, Joe, from a fan standpoint, one of the things that we all have enjoyed in years past is getting to know the players year over year over year. And this is a basketball program here in Salt Lake that has not seen consistently large crowds since Coach Majerus was here. And I always hesitate to bring up his name because it's an unfair comparison. But I think it makes it really hard for a community to feel connected to a team if the players are leaving year after year.
Well, a couple points. You bring up Coach Whittingham, who has built just a stellar program in football at the University of Utah. I thought he had a great statement early or a few months ago. He said, our older players used to help our younger players become better. And part of that, Spence, was what you just said. He would take 2- and 3-star recruits, and they'd been in the program for 5 years, and they'd be really good players. But there's no longer any older players helping younger players because there's such a turnover in your roster. And in terms of attendance, that's been going down across the country for years now. And the decline in attendance at Utah, while I have all the respect in the world for what Rick Majerus accomplished at Utah and what they're now calling the golden era of Utah basketball. That decline started at the end of Majerus's tenure there. That wasn't like it was, they were getting 12, 15,000 fans, and then Majerus left, and all of a sudden it went to hell in a handbasket. That started declining in his last few years at Utah. Now, why that is, I don't know, but it isn't confined or isolated to University of Utah. I think around the nation, probably 3 out of every programs in the nation that it is that way. It's on the decline. I came to University of Utah at the same time with Majerus, I guess you could say in 1989, and we could just open the doors and have anybody come play in the Cardinal Stitches of the world that he used to bring in from Milwaukee, and we'd have 10,000 people. That whole lower bowl would be filled up. And then, of course, during the heyday, it was a sellout most every night. But a lot of people blame that on TV, that there's so many accessible games now on TV. I think it's kind of a social thing with the younger generation, so many other things to do. I don't know what the reason is, but that, again, is not isolated to Utah. That's across the country in college basketball.
Let me ask you this. Do you this is a complicated topic because for years, and I've basically been doing this for 20 years now, I've always believed that college athletes should be compensated. I've always believed that the NCAA, for decades and decades and decades, built a business on the backs of employees that they were not paying. It felt like a sweatshop. And Ed O'Bannon, Joe, filed his lawsuit in 2008. Like, the NCAA should have seen this coming. They had warning that the antitrust violations were going to be seen by the higher courts and they were going to be in trouble. The failure of the NCAA to accurately prepare for what rev share would bring to be able to pay players from the institution, and then in addition to that, simply having the same basic economic rights as every other American, which is being able to profit off of who you are, was inevitably on the way, and they sat on their hands, which has led to chaos. So I want to ask you if you like the way the current system is set up, and, with all the complications that question brings, because I do believe these players should be compensated, and I'm not smart enough to know the answers, but you coached in a different time now. Do you like the state of the current game?
Well, Spence, you're kind of preaching to the choir on that subject. I think it is a mess right now, and I feel very lucky and very blessed to still be involved as an announcer. I'm so thankful that I'm not coaching in college basketball right now, or college athletics in general. And I believe I agree with so many points you just brought up. I think the NCAA has failed abysmally across the board in what has gone on. And I also agree with you. I thought for years that players should be compensated, not to the tune of millions of dollars and to the level it is now, and it is completely out of control. And they step up now and say, well, we're going to put a cap on things. Well, good luck with that. I think not a few of the cows are out of the barn. All the cows are out of the barn, and you ain't going to get all of them back in. Maybe they can convince themselves, we've got it under control now, but it is just an absolute mess. And I talk to people who are in college coaching right now, and you either have to adapt and kind of make some changes in your thought process or how you do things, or you get out like you've seen so many people do. And I think I got an impression. This is not a negative thing for me. It's just an impression. After broadcasting the Utah game last night, and I met their general manager, Mitch Wilcox, I think is his last name.
Wes Wilcox,
NBA.
yeah, Wes Wilcox.
Not Mitch, Wes. And I talked to the fellow TV people. I said, this now has such an NBA feel to it, as opposed to a college feel to it that it has for my now over 50 years being involved with college basketball. But as I thought about that, that's what it's turned into. It's professional athletics now. It's no longer college athletics. It's guys making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and most teams have to have a general manager to handle all that. There's no longer the kids coming to the head coach and saying, Coach, I need more playing time or whatever. You go to the general manager now who works with the head coach. I mean, it is just a whole different landscape than what we've been used to. But I still believe this, that the everyday fan who comes to the game, they just want to see their team do good. They really don't care about what's going on behind the scenes and how much this guy's making and how much, let's just go fight, win. Utes or Jayhawks or whoever you're rooting for, and it's still a good entertainment and a good quality of entertainment that's being put on the floor. But again, the everyday fan, I think, just wants to root for their team and have them win. It is so different now. It just feels different when you're around it now than what it used to be.
Joe, I don't know if you've heard, but BYU basketball has received a little bit of attention so far this offseason and this season.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I'm old enough to know the history of BYU basketball. And once upon a time, they had a team with Danny Ainge and Greg Kite and Fred Roberts, right? But you look at this team on paper, led by this A.J. DeBonsa kid, and they have a chance to do something pretty special down there. What does success look like for Kevin Young year 2 with all the pressure he's facing because of the talent he has at his disposal?
Well, I think all you can ask for as a head coach is to have talent and make your own way from there. And, again, that's so closely tied to the NIL now. Not again, just BYU basketball. They're a very talented team. The kid you just mentioned is, the number one recruit in the entire nation down there. And it still comes down to you can assemble that talent, then you got to coach that talent. But any college coach would say, yeah, let me have that talent and I'll live or die with them. I'll coach them. But again, it comes down to, how much you paying these guys. That sounds like that's just not what college athletics should be about, but that is what it's about now. I see guys on both teams last night of the team I broadcasted that have been in college for 3 years. They've been to 3 different colleges. They guys who and I'm working on future games I'm doing in the next couple years. A guy 4th year in college is his fourth different college he's gone to, and it's just a whole different animal. And I still enjoy watching what's going on the floor in college basketball, but I always tell the people when this started, Spence, when I started college coaching, it was back at my alma mater at University of Texas at Arlington, and some guy, and I don't even know who or where, gave me, and there was only 2 people in the coaching staff, me and the head coach, and they gave us a stack of Burger King coupons, probably 100 Burger King coupons, 2-for-1 deals, and we were giving them to our players, of course. And one morning I come to the office, and the head coach says, "Boy, the athletic director wants to see us. He seems really upset." And I said, "Well, I hadn't done anything that that I know of." And so we go in, and he says, "I hear you're giving 2-for-1 Whopper coupons to your players." Well, yeah, we are. Oh, I thought he was going to fire us. That is an added incentive. That's against the NCAA rules, and that was for giving 2-for-1 Burger King coupons. Well, now you can pay millions of dollars, buy them new trucks, move their family in, but by God, don't give them 2-for-1 Whopper coupons. I'll tell you, it almost cost me my career, but that's how far it's gone. And of course, that was a long time ago, but again, everyone wants to see their team win. Every coach is under the pressure to win. The players are bigger, more talented each year, but it still comes down now to this NIL and the transfer portal that has just completely transformed college basketball into something that it wasn't 6 or 8 years ago.
Unbelievable. I mean, I like me a good Whopper from time to time as much as anybody, but that is wild with how far we've come. Let me move over here before I set you loose. And I say this all the time, and I don't want to disrespect Jared Calhoun at all, but it is just amazing to me the basketball culture they have in Logan, where they're able to identify great coaches. The coaches come in here, have great success, and then a lot of them parlay that success into other jobs. What's the secret sauce up there? And again, I'm not trying to disrespect Jared Calhoun. I hope he's the answer up there. But, it started, of course, with Stu, who had a great run. He's now, the court is named after him. He's in the Hall of Fame, deserved it. And more often than not, these coaches roll into Logan, and they find ways to win 20-plus games and oftentimes go to tournaments. How do they do it up there?
Well, it is amazing. In fact, I went in to say hello to the San Jose State coach last night, and we were talking about that very thing. And I told him when I was the interim coach at Utah one year when we used to, and we were playing Utah State home and home at that time. Then the coach at Weber State when we played them alternating years, and I have probably coached 7 or 8 times up there. And I told Tim Miles, the San Jose State coach, I said I almost won a game up there one time and came home and had a damn party. That's how hard it is. That's how hard it is to win up there. They've had great coaches. It's a true college town. I think that it's very much in vogue and the thing to do if you're a student. They probably have the best student section. Now, BYU will rival that now, I think, the best student section in college basketball in our state. It's a tremendous home court advantage. And they've just had some really good coaches come through there, great tradition. And it's just been an awfully good job. I again telling Tim Miles of San Jose State, we were talking about Craig Smith. I said, boy, what he did up there, the former Utah, what he did at Utah State was just magical. And he looked at me and said, yeah, there's a whole lot of magic been going on up there here in the last several years. But I don't know. I don't have an answer to why they have been so good. But, they were good long before Stu Morrill, too. They've had great coaches up there over the years, and it's just been a very good basketball school, great tradition that has just continued over a long period of time.
Well, Joe, I appreciate the time, sir. It's always great to have college hoops back. Keep up the great work on the broadcast. We'll get you back on again soon, okay?
Thanks, Spence. It's always fun being on with you. Take care, and I appreciate you having me on.
All right, Joe Cravens, longtime college basketball coach. He's been on the broadcast side of things for a number of different years, and he called the Utah game last night as the Alex Jensen era began with a win over San Jose State. We'll catch a break, 5 o'clock hour tonight. We'll talk some college football. We are 1 hour away from the first reveal of the college football playoff rankings, but we welcome in Ryan from the Dish Pros. Hope you don't have YouTube TV. If you're a football fan with YouTube TV, you are in a bad spot, and it's not changing. If you're a sports fan, you need Dish, certainly a local sports fan, as I say all the time. Great promotions to save money, and you can save money on internet by dialing 801-424-DISH. What's up, Ryan?
This is such a great opportunity. New promotion with Dish. They made it simpler, cleaner, and just lowered the overall price with the price guarantee. And the best part is when we quote a price, that is the total price. There's no additional fees or additional room charges. As packages start at $89 a month, we can get you set up and installed as early as next day. If you've got cable or direct TV, this is not just a little bit of money. You're $40 to $70 a month cheaper just by picking up the phone. Plus, you get movie channels. We're going to throw in dinner at JCW's. Remember, the price is guaranteed not to change. And yes, Dish has all the ESPN. So if you're a YouTube subscriber, you're spending about the same. You could make the switch and get some free movie channels, get installed, and dinner on us, and get all the games. Call us today, 424-DISH. It's 801-424-DISH.
All righty, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. The final hour of the program on a Tuesday afternoon comes your way next, right here on ESPN 700. All right, here we go. Drive at 5 time on a Tuesday afternoon. It is 4 minutes past the hour, 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on what has been another beautiful, beautiful day outside. We're looking currently at about 64 degrees and sunny. We reached about 70 degrees and sunny earlier today. And tomorrow's going to be beautiful. 70 degrees. Looks like it's going to be a chilly Thursday and Friday. Going to warm up over the weekend. Beautiful, beautiful stretch of fall weather to start out this November here in Salt Lake City. And as it is every single day, it's good to have you with us. We are going to say goodnight tonight at 6 o'clock in time for the Alex Jensen Coaches Show. The Runnin' Utes off to a 1-0 start after beating San Jose State last night at the Huntsman Center. But we are about 52 minutes away from the first release of the CFP rankings. Will tell us a lot about this new college football committee, this 13-member panel that apparently will be using what is known as advanced metrics. What exactly does that mean? We're not entirely sure. But we talked about this through the prism of what it could mean for both Utah and BYU, and then the Big 12 Conference as a whole. As you know, Utah is on a bye this week, making sure they're healthy, ready to go for the stretch run. Final 3 games at Baylor, home against K-State, the final home game of the season, which is weird that we're already there. And then a post-Thanksgiving clash against Kansas in their building. Utah will be favored for their final 3 games, anticipating a 10-2 season, which no matter how you spin it, unless you're an old-school Utah fan, that you could go 6-6 with a win over BYU, and that would be satisfactory, which I've never fully understood. But 10-2 would be amazing. BYU, of course, will be highly featured coming up this weekend after their bye week. Some good news for Cougar fans. Looks like L.J. Martin, one of the best running backs in the entire country, if not just the Big 12, is expected to play in Lubbock against Texas Tech. Practiced well on Monday, according to Kalani, and is in line to play on Saturday. 789 yards, anticipating LJ to go well over 1,000. Taking some pressure off of Bear Bachmeyer because Sione Moa, the backup running back, is still on the shelf. So some good news for BYU, although the line continues to indicate Texas Tech is where the money is going and is a heavy favorite. 10 points Texas Tech is getting down in Lubbock. That is a 10 a.m. Mountain Time kick. It can be seen on ABC. So a lot of eyes on BYU Texas Tech. College game day will be in Lubbock after College game day was here in Salt Lake. And the committee last year, after the first iteration of the CFP rankings were released, kind of indicated that the writing was on the wall for the Big 12 to only get one team in. I feel like so far this year that should be different. And my guess is we're going to see that tonight. Now, we talk a lot about Bill Conley and his S&P Plus rankings, and Bill is a friend of the show. We have him on quite a bit. So Bill released his simulation based off of a couple of different metrics. As I said, today's rankings will be the first CFP rankings since the committee began using what they are calling enhanced metrics to help evaluate schedule strength. Even Bill, he says this, what does that mean in practice? Quote, I have no idea. So in anticipation of tonight's release, let's look at the 4 rankings for the teams most likely to be ranked by the committee. Here's how Bill is using this with his formula. Number 1, their AP poll ranking. Number 2, the old school kind of BCS type formula that was used for a long, long time. Number 3, strength of record, which has been a big deal so far this year. And number 4, their resume S&P Plus ranking. So according to Bill, go over this real quick before we catch a break. We're going to do more college football coming up until we turn it over to the Alex Jensen Coaches Show. Number 1 team in the country, Ohio State. Number 1 AP, number 1 BCS, number 3 strength of record, and number 2 with their resume SN+. Number 2 expecting to be Indiana. Number 2 AP, number 2 BCS, number 2 strength of record, number 1, interestingly enough, with their resume strength of schedule. Number 4 Texas A&M. Number 5 Alabama. Number 6 Georgia. Number 7 Oregon. Number 8 Ole Miss. And then he is expecting BYU to come in at number 9, and then Texas Tech to come in at number 10. For Utah, then it would be Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Virginia, Texas, Louisville, Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech just ahead of the Utes, and then Utah coming in at number 17 is where Bill anticipates. Utah 17 in the AP, they're 17 in the BCS, number 23 strength of record, and number 8 resume SP+, which is the metric that continues to like the Utah Utes. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like, how many Big 12 teams get in, where BYU lands, where Texas Tech lands, and ultimately where the University of Utah lands, because it would be nice to see both Utah and BYU with a chance to test themselves against some of the best teams in the country in a college football playoff format. But it's a big night tonight. These are the only rankings that matter. After tonight, I'm not even sure that I'll reference the AP or the coaches poll, leaning heavily to the College Football Playoff Committee's rankings. It's a new formula. It's a new group, and we're going to learn more about it coming up in just about 48 minutes from right now. We'll catch a break, continue to talk college football coming up on the other side. Tuesday Drive. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, we got to get out of here for the Alex Jensen Coaches Show. But before we do, haven't had a chance to get to this story. As I've said for years, you can tell me Tom Brady's awesome. You can't tell me he's cool. He's weird. He says his current dog is a clone of his family's previous pet. So as I've said, Porter, you can tell me he's awesome. Do not tell me he's cool.
Yeah, he is weird. I will say that's more common than you'd think.
Okay.
The clone thing.
All right.
With pets.
Well, I think it's weird. I think he's weird, and I don't think he's a good announcer. I think Greg Olson should keep that job. But Tom Brady is Tom Brady, okay, bottom line. All right, Alex Jensen Coaches Show coming up on the other side. Porter, what comes our way on a Wednesday edition of The Drive?
On a Wednesday edition of the program, halfway through the work week, we'll continue the college football conversation. We'll talk a little NFL as well. Lindsey Rhodes of Sumer Sports stops by talking some pro football. Chris Camerani stops by all over the map with CK. And one Tony Parks as well. Both of those guys are going to hop in studio, so we'll have some company on a Wednesday.
Always love the in-studio guests, and we'll say goodnight. Special thank you today to Gavin Peterson, to Craig Bolerjack, to Gordon Monson, and to Joe Cravens. Good show today. For any of the sound you may have missed, website ESPN700sports.com. Download our app. Take us on the go. Please support our podcast page. It helps us out. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Please subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments. It actually helps. Reporter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Enjoy the Alex Jensen Coaches Show coming up on the other side, and we'll catch you on a Wednesday drive. As always, you can find that right here on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.